At the Academy of Extraordinary Abilities, students were preparing for their Awakening exam. While most were focused, Ningfang was playing a game on his phone. He was confident in the game, but not known for any real achievements in life. Wang Yu approached him angrily, reminding him that the exam was about to start. She had already awakened a 5-star class at 16, and many students admired her. Others wondered why she spent time with Ningfang, who was seen as a failure since he hadn't awakened even at 18. Ignoring their comments, she dragged him to the exam area. In this world called Blue Star, gaming and reality had merged. Everyone at 16 got a chance to awaken abilities and become adventurers. At the city's number 7 high school, the National Awakening exam was taking place. Ningfang, already having failed twice before, waited for his turn. When called, he stepped up and followed the teacher's instructions. At first, the crystal didn't react, but soon a faint blue light appeared. The teacher noted that it was related to a magic class. After the process ended, Ningfang's results showed a 1-star awakening with a skill called Mud Marsh Technique. The teacher assumed it was useless and sent him to prepare for the next test. While walking away, Ningfang noticed messages appearing before him, showing that a system had activated and granted him 2 passive abilities, Dark Origin and Mysterious Gift. The first removed backlash from dark powers and reduced the cost of forbidden techniques. The second allowed him to use a forbidden spell once a week. Then another message showed that his skill had transformed into a forbidden curse called Profane Earth Shield. Soon after, students were taken through a portal into the Phi Sanctuary to test their new powers against monsters. Teachers instructed them not to fight each other, and drones monitored everything. Ningfang reviewed his skill, which could summon dark energy to form a barrier strong enough to crush enemies. He decided not to use it in front of the drones and hid instead. In the control room, the captain grew irritated watching him avoid combat. One staff member explained his weakness, but the captain called him useless. Then a drone suddenly lost connection, and sensors detected a large energy surge in the sanctuary. Inside the sanctuary, a student encountered a strong goblin leading a group of monsters. The goblin destroyed a nearby drone, cutting off the signal. A fragment from the drone fell onto Ningfang's head. When he looked up, he saw the goblin group surrounding him. Realizing no drones were left to record, he decided to test his new power. He lifted his hand, and dark energy spread from his body. The ground shifted as strange forces gathered around him. In the control room, all drone feeds went dark, and the team detected a leak of dark energy spreading through the area. The situation at the academy quickly escalated when the system detected an unusually strong energy signal inside the testing area. Supervisors suspected that a sea-level or higher magic beast had appeared. Captain Zhu immediately ordered reinforcements and began civilian evacuation. The news shocked Teacher Chia. A sea-level beast had enough power to destroy a city, and its appearance during an exam was unthinkable. Inside the sanctuary, the goblin leader was frozen in fear at what he saw. Ningfang's body was surrounded by dark energy, and the creatures he summoned tore through the goblins with ease. Looking at his hands, he realized that curse magic worked differently from normal skills. Within moments, nearly all the goblins were wiped out, leaving only the leader alive. The goblin tried to retreat, confused by how a human could possess such power, but his movement slowed before the dark energy engulfed him completely. He vanished, leaving behind a burst of experience points. A window appeared before Fong, showing that his class was officially mage. The battle boosted his level from 1 to 10 in a single fight. His stats showed 0 health, 8 strength, 8 agility, 20 spirit, and 12 resistance. He was pleased with the rapid progress. Normally, students only gained a level or 2 during the entire exam, but the elite monster gave him a huge advantage. After calming down, he realized the situation was strange. Regular monsters didn't give that much experience. Something must have gone wrong for an elite monster to appear in a training area. While he was thinking, several items dropped around him, the loot from the goblin. All of them were orange quality treasures. One item, a Vanguard badge, permanently increased agility by 10. Another, the Shadow Claw of the Slayer, required level 20 and added large boosts to strength, agility, and attack attributes. The equipment was far stronger than anything a beginner should own. Fong couldn't use all of it yet, but the thought of selling such valuable gear made him excited. His thoughts were interrupted by an urgent announcement from the supervisors, ordering all students to use teleport scrolls and evacuate immediately. When he looked around, he saw the battlefield left by his spell, craters, scorched ground, and destruction everywhere. Realizing how dangerous his dark magic appeared, he quickly activated his scroll and escaped before anyone could trace the cause. As students returned, staff instructed them to leave the campus immediately. The captain considered the situation, aware that even if every available reinforcement was called, they wouldn't be able to handle a king-level monster. Before he could act further, the dark energy signal suddenly vanished, leaving everyone confused. The authorities ordered the school to lock down and avoid spreading panic. Outside, Fong met Wang Yu, who mentioned that the teachers looked frightened and that the school was sealed off due to an unknown energy source. He began to suspect the event might be connected to his earlier fight. He felt frustrated that the school closed right after he finally gained some power. Wang Yu noticed his mood and tried to comfort him, suggesting that defensive magic like his would make him a good team member. She told him to join her squad starting the next day. Fong tried to act confident, saying he could train alone, but she refused to take no for an answer and told him to meet her at the west gate the next morning. After she left, Fong considered making excuses to skip, jokingly imagining pretending to be sick. But he quickly dropped the idea, knowing she'd just beat him up for lying. Thinking of a better plan, he decided to visit the Yuan Chun trading house. The large building sold equipment with special abilities, and he hoped to find something with mirror-type magic to disguise his powers as normal. He also planned to sell the monster loot. Inside the store, a clerk greeted him. He asked for any item containing a mirror spell, regardless of type. The clerk assumed he was a broke, newly awakened student and told a trainee to help him instead. The trainee, polite and cheerful, guided him through several options. He tested a few items, including a heavy hammer he couldn't lift and a ring that seemed suitable. He chose the ring and thanked the trainee for her help. Before leaving, he asked if he could sell some monster drop items. The trainee confirmed it was possible and took him to the valuation counter. The shop owner inspected the orange-grade claw Fong had obtained earlier. He was impressed by its attributes, noting that it was designed for speed, didn't require a high level, and included 3 gem slots for custom enhancements, a rare find for someone at Fong's level. Wang says it's a good item and believes several clients in his guild would be interested. He asks if Fong has any specific price expectations. Fong just simply says the higher the better. The expert asks Fong to sit down, saying he'll make some calls to potential buyers and asks Miss Yang to take care of him. He then calls some rich dude named Mr. Jan and tells him about the equipment. While our boy was chilling, sipping tea in the waiting room, the expert returns telling him the equipment has been sold and the buyer is willing to pay 50,000 crystals. After taking out the 8% transaction fee, he'd get 46,000 crystals. This leaves Fong and Yang speechless. They both stand up, still shocked by the news. Wang says they can finish the paperwork right there, and once everything's set, the crystal transfer will be quick. He asks for it to be done fast and requests to see some more equipment while the final preparations are made. In another section, the staff are talking and some girl asks the girl who dismissed Fong if she doesn't like handsome men and why she ignored him. She says she likes handsome men with money and power, and that guy didn't even deserve to be in the same place as her. Some time passes, and from far away, the staff noticed Fong returning. They ask if he was the client she didn't want to help. The one with tied-up hair says she heard the young man sold a piece of equipment for 50,000 crystals. The black-haired one is shocked, saying that amount equals 3 months of her salary. She starts regretting it, wondering why she wasn't the one to help him. Outside, Miss Yang tells Fong that next time he comes, he should just find her directly. And with a smile, she introduces herself, saying her name is Yang Xin. The next day, Fong heads to his meet-up with Wang Yu, feeling a bit more confident after discovering the spells on his gear don't trigger the system. When he arrives, Yu's already there along with her whole damn guild. She introduces him around, but the mage and shield warrior are eyeing him hard. Confused by those stares, he wonders if he might owe them money or something. Then Shurao Chong strolls in and casually asks you if she's about to hit her second transformation. Fong learns that every 30 levels you transcend, meaning you probably sitting near level 60. Chong, trying way too hard to impress, whips out an advanced agility potion, something insanely rare and worth more than most people's lives. Turns out his daddy had to call in favors and burn through piles of cash just to get it. Yu, however, immediately declines, telling him to take it back. She doesn't need it, and they've got bigger priorities. Chong looks stunned, pressing her about university admissions. Instead of listening, he suddenly turns his sights on Fong, and he asks her why she's wasting time with trash. That's when Yu's entire vibe shifts. She looks at him and tells him to watch his mouth. But that idiot just can't take a hint as he continues to disrespect our boy. Giza tries to calm that idiot down, saying that they need to leave. But this bastard doesn't listen, saying that Fong barely has enough money to buy a bottle of basic potion. Fong mocks Shurao Chong, saying it's just a potion that adds 3 measly attributes, so he should stop showing off. This pisses off Shurao Chong, and he asks how Fong dares to speak to him like that. A shield warrior jumps into the conversation, saying Shurao Chong was talking too loudly and asks if by any chance Fong has something more powerful. Chong starts smiling as he says, if Fong proves he is such an item, Shurao Chong will immediately kneel. However, if he can't prove it, Fong will kneel and smash his head on the ground. At that moment, Fong takes out his item, telling Shurao Chong to get ready. He asks Wang Yu to take it since it was meant to be her gift. Surprised, she asks because the Pioneer's emblem an item that permanently increases attributes. She's never seen anything like it, leaving everyone there amazed and wondering how there could be an item that permanently boosts attributes by more than 10. They think it must be fake. Fong simply says whether it's fake or not, she should try it out and find out. Looking at the item, she hesitates, unsure whether to take it or not. But he reassures her, telling her not to worry because he found the item at his house and it was meant to be hers. He shouts for her to use it quickly since everyone there is dying to see what happens. She uses the item and says her attributes have indeed increased. Meanwhile, the shield warrior and Shurao Chong can't believe their eyes this bro kid just pulled out gear worth more than their monthly allowance. Chong suggests Fong probably stole it because there's no way a loser like him could afford something that expensive. Fong says he better keep his promise. Immediately, Shia Chong refuses, but Wanu asks if he isn't a man and if he's going to back down like a coward. He looks around, hoping for someone to help him, but everyone is giving him dirty looks that say, "You made the bet. Now pay up." He then begins to kneel. Fong tells Wang Yu it's time to leave on the way. She tries to apologize, but Fong interrupts her, asking her to stop because their relationship doesn't need that kind of thing. He says she really doesn't need to come with him. He would prefer that she focus on her second transformation and get into the best university, because with her by his side, he can't train efficiently. Plus, he's got some dark magic secrets to hide. Worried about Fong, she asks him not to get discouraged and hand him a book, saying it's for him. Not quite understanding what it is, he asks if a skill book. She says it is, and when he reaches the right level, he should learn those skills. Fong asks if all of them are purple quality, and, judging by their look, they're all expensive as hell. The story then moved to the Cursed Dungeon, where Fong was once again proving his talent for being the least helpful adventurer in the group. He fought zombies half-heartedly, thinking the monsters didn't give much experience since he was already level 10, though he couldn't exactly admit that to anyone. Meanwhile, Wang Yu received a call from the pink-haired girl in her party. They'd just received intel that a fallen necromancer was about to appear, a rare event that could drop valuable items for mages. The girl asked if Wang Yu would join the raid. Shurao Chong, standing nearby, urged her to come too, saying they'd need her help to defeat the boss and emphasizing how important the loot could be. Wang Yu tried to keep her voice low so Fong wouldn't overhear, but he already noticed the conversation. After thinking for a moment, she looked at Fong. He told her to go ahead, reassuring her that he'd be fine. They were in the same dungeon anyway, and she could continue helping him later. She hesitated, but eventually agreed, telling him to wait for her in a safe area. Fong smiled, nodded, and watched as she hurried off to join her teammates. The moment she was gone, Fong's grin widened. Finally alone, he could move freely. He had learned 2 new skills, and knew his mysterious passive ability allowed him to use forbidden spells once a week for free. With his current level, he only had 3 skill slots, but it was enough. Elsewhere in the dungeon, another adventurer group fought through a cluster of monsters. One of them reminded the others to clear the way carefully, since the area's difficulty was high and the creatures here were dangerous. As they advanced, a burst of fire roared past them, startling everyone. The priest wondered if another team was ahead, and the tank confirmed it was impossible until they realized who it was. Wang Yu and Shi Aochong from the Lion Guild had arrived. Even on a national level, they were considered elite talents. On the battlefield, Shi Aochong loudly claimed the boss for himself, telling others not to compete. One of his teammates asked if Wang Yu noticed she had gotten stronger, and she agreed, mentioning her agility had increased by 10 points. At the same time, in the dungeon's main tower, a swirling portal opened. Fong stepped out, realizing that his teleportation spell didn't just block magic, but also allowed travel across space. A dense dark aura filled the area as the fallen necromancer appeared from the shadows. Fong, unfazed, casually greeted the creature, joking about being late. The necromancer didn't take kindly to it and hurled a massive rock at him. Fong teleported behind it using his void path, muttering that he didn't plan to share loot anyway. Standing directly behind the undead boss, Fong unleashed his skill, Meteor Rain. Dozens of burning stones descended, obliterating everything in the area. The necromancer and every monster nearby were wiped out in seconds. When the dust settled, Fong stood surrounded by the ruins of the tower, smiling as the system notifications poured in. He'd just earned 50,000 experience points and jumped to level 30. Gems, jewels, and rare skill books littered the floor. The items weren't only for mages, but were valuable enough to make him rich. He examined the loot. Dark stone gear that boosted magic damage and life drain. A necromancer pendant that increased strength, spirit, and curse resistance while granting poison immunity, and a necromancer insignia that permanently boosted spirit by 15 at the cost of 3 life points. Without hesitation, Fong used it immediately. Then, the system revealed a hidden item, the necromancer emblem. With it, he could unlock special professions like necromancer, sorcerer, or all-elemental mage. Without hesitation, he picked the all-elemental mage, calling it the true choice for a man. His uncontrolled excitement caused his dark energy to flare, disturbing the entire dungeon and creating chaos for Wang Yu's team. Shi Aochong got furious, but Wang Yu ordered him to stay quiet and focus on survival. She quickly messaged Fong, telling him to get out of there, but by then, he was already gone, heading for the transformation hall. Inside the hall, he found it quiet. A woman at the counter greeted him, asking if he was there for a transformation task. When he confirmed, she took his details, silently judging him for becoming a mage only at 18. She directed him toward the mage sector and told him to call her if he needed assistance. As Fong thanked her and left, Captain Zhu arrived, his face grim. The woman asked what had happened, and he reported that the sinister cemetery dungeon had been destroyed. The energy level there might exceed even a king-tier threat. She was shocked, asking if this was the second king-level incident in 2 days. Zhu confirmed it and said that higher authorities had ordered the solitary shadow to take action. Meanwhile, Fong entered the transformation chamber. The system presented him with 2 options. The first was the Necromancer's transformation mission, to obtain the Blood King's robe from the Phantom Realm's Labyrinth of Illusions, a Class A difficulty quest with a 3-day deadline. The second was the God of Universal Magic's transformation mission, to retrieve the sacred emblem from the Temple of the Resplendent Sun in the same realm, but at an S-rank difficulty. After reviewing both, Fong realized the All-Elemental Mage was just a preliminary class, but he still chose it without hesitation. Once he confirmed his selection, he prepared to head out again. As Fong left the building, he He realized that his new transformation task was an S-rank mission, something rare but fitting for a hidden class. He said goodbye to the receptionist, but noticed that the woman now behind the counter wasn't the same one who had helped him earlier. Meanwhile, back inside the cursed dungeon, investigators were studying the traces of dark energy left behind. One of them, intrigued, remarked that it was the first time he had seen someone from the solitary shadow, pointing out that the uniform looked different from what he had heard about. Captain Joe immediately told him to stay quiet, reminding him that the organization's existence was classified. He went on to explain that solitary shadow members were special operatives who wielded dark energy, allowing them to take on high-risk missions that ordinary adventurers couldn't handle. Jing, the woman who had assisted Fong earlier, was also part of the team investigating the site. As she observed the remaining energy, she began to feel uneasy, realizing the darkness was still strong enough to affect her despite having mostly faded. When the others reported that there were no clues about the source, she confirmed that whoever caused the destruction had already disappeared, making it impossible to track their purpose or identity. Captain Joe noted that similar anomalies had been happening recently in various restricted zones and suspected that it might be a sign of something bigger coming. He asked if the events could be connected. Jing said it was possible and decided to contact her superiors to request reinforcements. Joe mentioned that the higher-ups had already planned to send the lone hurricane from Solitary Shadow, one of their strongest agents. A man with glasses cautiously asked if the damage could have been caused by a monster, or worse, by a mutant human. Jing looked at him sharply and asked if he was implying she was the same kind of creature. He quickly apologized, saying that wasn't his intention. Jing then explained that the dark power present in the dungeon had exceeded even king-level threat readings, something no human body could normally withstand. The man asked if a monster that powerful could be hiding somewhere in the city, capable of causing another catastrophe. Jing didn't sugarcoat her response. She simply said it was possible, and that's why finding the source was their top priority. Meanwhile, the one responsible for all that chaos was casually relaxing in his room, watching the city from his window. Fong commented to himself that the darkness felt oddly comforting. With his level now at 30 and 4 additional skill slots unlocked, he decided to use the 2 books Wang Yu had given him. The system automatically detected a compatibility between the Arcane Shield and Foul Earth Shell and fused them into a new passive skill, Foul Earth Defense. This ability would automatically activate when he was attacked, absorbing all incoming damage. A moment later, another fusion triggered between Foul Earth Shell and Meteor Rain, granting him Elemental Earth Mastery, which boosted all his Earth-based attacks by 20%. Seeing that he still had 4 empty slots, Fong decided to buy more skill books at the Yuan Chung Trading House. The next morning, he headed to the market and ran into the same receptionist from before. She greeted him with a fake smile, saying that Miss Yang Xin was busy, so she would assist him instead. Fong politely declined, saying he preferred to browse alone. Offended, she accused him of rejecting her out of pride and tried to chase him down to prove her charm. Before things escalated, Xin appeared, slightly out of breath from running. She explained she had rushed over after hearing he was there. Fong apologized for the trouble and offered to take her out for dinner to make it up to her. Later that day, Fong met with Wang in his office, placing 2 books on the table and asking to purchase new mage skills. Wang approved and told Xin to assist him with the process. Watching the interaction, Wang found Fong increasingly interesting. The last time they met, Fong had walked away with an orange-grade weapon, and now he was buying rare purple skill books, far beyond what most students could afford. Wang decided that this boy was worth keeping an eye on. That night, Fong and Xin went out to eat. When the bill arrived, Fong tried to pay, but Xin had already handled it. Though he felt awkward for not keeping his promise, she smiled and told him she had her own reasons for inviting him out. She called it a secret before leaving in a taxi. In the cab, when the driver asked for her destination, she said Municipal Hospital No. 2. She thought about her sick father and felt relieved that she could finally pay his medical bills thanks to Fong's help. But the moment was short-lived. The driver suddenly slammed into something. Before she could react, a claw pierced through the driver's chest. A portal opened above them, spilling monsters onto the street. Shin leapt from the car, hitting the ground hard. When she looked up, she couldn't believe what she was seeing. Monsters inside a designated safe zone. She froze when she sensed something breathing behind her. Turning slowly, she saw another figure step out from the portal, radiating immense power and smiling with a calmness that made her stomach drop. Shin fired a quick spell out of instinct. The attack exploded, but instead of helping, it only made the creature angrier. Shin sighed, knowing she stood no chance. She was just a level 1 mage with a single-star rating, hardly a match for the monster charging straight at her. Just when she thought it was over, Captain Joe appeared out of nowhere, cutting the creature's head clean off. He quickly checked if she could move and told her to get somewhere safe. Surveying the scene, Joe noticed the decay spreading rapidly through the area. He muttered that the secret realm was leaking into reality, something that could instantly wipe out low-ranked fighters like her. His mind flashed back to the warning from a man with glasses about a hidden monster capable of destroying everything. Before he could plan his next move, a massive hand crashed down from above. Joe dodged and looked up to see a strange, humanoid figure standing in front of him. The figure introduced itself as the guardian of the power of darkness. Joe had never heard of such a thing, and honestly, survival was his only concern. He swung his sword, but the guardian's counterpunch sent him flying across the field. The creature laughed, saying the corrupted land gave him strength. He struck Joe again, leaving him bruised and bleeding. Then, a harsh voice echoed from Joe's amulet, calling him weak and vain. He panicked and apologized out loud as a rift opened above him. From it emerged a monstrous being resembling a warped version of a hollow, declaring that Joe should kneel and offer the entire city as a sacrifice to its dominion. At that moment, Fong arrived, completely unaware of the chaos, looking confused as if he'd just walked out of a quiet room. When a monster lunged at him, he casually used his Earth Spike skill, taking it down instantly. He couldn't help but comment to himself that his new purple-grade weapon had been worth every coin. The Guardian turned toward him, calling Fong the last pest he needed to eliminate. He charged, but stopped mid-attack, stunned to see Fong blocking with dark energy that radiated immense power. The larger entity hovering above became curious, fixated on the dark aura surrounding Fong, an aura that seemed stronger than death itself. Fong's expression hardened. He released another surge of energy, shattering the Guardian's arm in a single blow. The Guardian panicked, begging for help from the entity above, but his plea was ignored. The creature simply told him to handle his own mess before dissolving back into the portal, pulling the rest of the monsters with it. The Guardian collapsed, muttering that his power was fading. Fong walked over with a smirk, realizing this one was a Shadow-class mutant, strong at first, but mentally unstable once their shield vanished. He didn't hesitate. A single Earth Spike finished the job. Muttering about how annoying shadow mutants were, he began collecting the loot scattered around before anyone else could show up. Elsewhere in the city, Jing and her team were handling cleanup operations. Her assistant reported that the monsters had vanished and the distortions were gone. Still, Jing couldn't shake her suspicion. The way these distortions appeared and disappeared made no sense. She wondered what the true motive behind them was. Most of the city had been spared, but the southern sector, where Joe's team had fought, was heavily damaged. Jing went to investigate. There, she found a man named Duan examining the Guardian's corpse. He noted that someone had already stripped it clean of valuables. When Jing arrived, she demanded to know who he was. Duan calmly showed his identification, revealing that he was from the Cloud Realm, a secretive organization of elite fighters. Jing questioned why someone from such a hidden group was operating openly. Duan explained that the dead Guardian had once been one of their members, but he betrayed them and helped monsters invade through dimensional distortions, leading to countless deaths. Jing asked if his death meant the crisis was over, but Duan shook his head. The truth was, no one knew who had killed him. He added that this enemy was notorious for escaping even when he tried to hunt it down. What shocked him most was that the Guardian had been taken out, something not even he or Captain Joe, both around level 90, had managed to do. That meant someone far more powerful might be hiding in their city. Back at Fong's place, he was going through the loot he'd picked up. He had scored 2 orange-grade armor pieces, the Eternal Radiance chest and pants, both requiring level 120 to equip. He found it odd that the Guardian wasn't using them, probably because he wasn't strong enough. Fong thought that if the Guardian had been able to use that equipment, he would have needed forbidden magic to win. Among the loot was a pendant with no visible quality or stats. Fong turned it in his hand, wondering if it might contain some hidden power or ancient spirit. Unbeknownst to him, the distortion entity was watching him through that very pendant. Far away, the entity was in a panic. It recalled the encounter, trembling at how close it had come to being noticed. The thought that Fong might have sensed its presence terrified it. In a rush of fear, it severed all connections to the pendant. The next day at the hospital, Captain Joe was recovering and briefing Jing about what had happened. He told her about a mysterious young fighter who had shown up and saved everyone. Apparently, as soon as the monsters saw him, they retreated through the distortion portal in fear. Jing wondered if this person could be stronger than her, though she couldn't understand why he hadn't finished off the entity. The man with glasses offered a theory. Maybe the mysterious savior was also a mutant, given the traces of dark energy left at the scene. Zhou dismissed the idea immediately, saying it was nonsense. But Jing couldn't stop thinking about it. What if he was right? Meanwhile, Fong had gone to the guards to begin his next step, the job change quest. Entering the Temple of Radiance, he looked around, unsure if he was even in the right place. Hidden nearby, Duan was secretly observing him. Earlier that day, Duan had gone to the trade market asking about 4-star armor sets. Wang had just received a call from someone selling a matching chest and pants, the same items Fong had found. Duan immediately took interest, realizing this might be linked to the legacy equipment he'd been searching for. He offered to pay for details, making Wang nervous. When Wang checked Fong's records, he was stunned to see the kid's background, an orphan, born with a 1-star class, and with no money or influence. That revelation left Wang uneasy. How could a broke 1-star nobody be walking around with 4-star armor and purple skills? Something about Fong wasn't adding up. At the guild's reception, the staff couldn't stop imagining Duan pounding Fong into the ground. A 4-star fighter like Duan could crush anyone in their province, so the idea of him meeting Fong felt like watching a one-sided massacre in her head. Meanwhile, back in reality, Duan was still observing Fong from a distance. He couldn't understand how this kid managed to repel a distortion invasion when even master-level fighters had been wiped out by it. In his mind, there were only 2 explanations. Either Fong had stolen his master's gear, or someone immensely powerful was backing him. Fong eventually reached the Temple of Radiance, while Duan continued his silent investigation. He thought he could estimate Fong's strength by seeing what kind of gear he changed into. But instead of putting on some fancy armor or divine relics, Fong just threw on plain student clothes. Duan frowned, wondering if it was a disguise meant to blend in. To be sure, he used a psychic skill that let him mark Fong without being noticed, allowing him to track his movements mentally. Inside the temple, things escalated fast. A monster suddenly appeared and fired an energy blast at Fong. He didn't even bother taking his hands out of his pockets. He just stood there as the attack stopped mid-air, as if something invisible blocked it for him. Duan was shocked, tried to figure out what kind of ability could do that automatically. Then, even stranger things happened. Every monster that saw Fong started avoiding him completely, backing away instead of attacking. Duan was completely lost at this point, wondering what kind of existence this guy was. Fong stopped in front of a massive statue, the supposed dungeon boss, but the statue stayed perfectly still, silently begging to be ignored. It was practically thinking, "I'm just a statue, walk past me." Fong took one glance at it, muttered that this probably wasn't the mission guide, and kept walking. Duan watched, still baffled, when suddenly the real boss appeared, a 6-winged angel that took one look at Fong and immediately flew off. No fight, no hesitation, just full retreat. Fong stood there confused. while Duan's brain tried to make sense of what he had just witnessed. The system then confirmed that this was an S-level, first-class change mission. Fong stared at the notification, complaining that no beginner could handle an S-level quest. Meanwhile, the fleeing boss was panicking mid-air, thinking that even in its own domain, it couldn't stand against whatever Fong was. As thunderclouds gathered, Fong decided to stop wasting time. He lifted his hand, summoned a massive eye in the sky, and unleashed a lightning storm that obliterated the six-winged angel instantly. The sheer force of the attack didn't just kill the boss, it wrecked half the temple in the process. Duan was frozen, speechless. He had never seen destructive magic like that before. In his mind, he compared Fong's power to his late master's and realized this kid was even stronger. He started wondering if Fong might be one of the 8 legendary warriors. Fong, however, was more annoyed than impressed. He realized that since he hadn't completed his first transformation yet, none of this experience was going to count. Still, he'd earned something valuable, the sacred emblem, a legendary item that permanently doubled spirit attributes and recovery rates. He pulled out a teleport scroll to head back, but before he could use it, Duan ran over, calling for him to wait. Fong turned around with a serious look, which immediately made Duan nervous. For a second, he genuinely thought Fong might kill him. But before either could say anything, alarms started blaring across the temple. They both decided to leave before more trouble arrived. Outside, Fong asked if Duan had been tailing him. Duan admitted it and said he only wanted to confirm a theory, explaining that Fong looked so young he couldn't believe what he was seeing. He then shared his story. His master had been a strong fighter who sacrificed himself to seal a distortion temporarily. The traitor behind it escaped and had been sacrificing humans ever since to break that seal. Fong pieced it together, realizing the traitor must be in the 4th transformation stage. If that man hadn't shown up on his own, Fong might have never sensed him. Still, his current level was too low to take any direct action for now. Duan, on the other hand, was sweating nervously, mistaking Fong's silence for a death sentence. After a moment, Fong nodded slightly. Duan thanked him for avenging his master and told him that if he ever needed help, he'd be there. Fong thought it wouldn't hurt to have someone like Duan as an ally, a powerful loner with good intentions. He asked Duan to keep everything that happened a secret. Duan agreed without hesitation, thinking about the mysterious dark magic user who saved the entire city without asking for credit. Then Fong's phone rang. It was Professor Chi. She asked where he was, and he replied that he was out of town but heading back. She told him they needed to talk when he returned, leaving him confused about why she sounded so serious. Meanwhile, at headquarters, Chi and Jing were having a private discussion. Chi said that one of her students, who had only awakened a few days ago, had suddenly reached first transformation. If she hadn't been monitoring the records, it would have gone unnoticed. She trusted Fong, but Jing said they still needed to verify some things. Later, during a meeting, Jing questioned whether the recent citywide destruction had been caused by mutants. An old man reminded her that she was one herself and explained that the stronger a mutant becomes, the greater the price: loss of sanity, life, or turning into a monster. A king-level mutant, he said, was simply impossible. Another man mocked her for even suggesting it, joking that if a king-level mutant really existed, he'd gladly cut off his own head and let her use it as a soccer ball. The old man added that they were sending an investigation team to the city, but weren't granting reinforcements from Solitary Shadow. Jing was clearly frustrated, asking if they doubted her competence. Before the argument could continue, her assistant rushed in with urgent news. The Temple of Radiance in Longview had been struck by destruction spells, with several people injured. Jing's expression shifted immediately. She knew Fong had been training there. With a faint smile, she said that things had just gotten a lot more interesting. Over in Longo City, chaos had erupted. The protective shield had been activated, and guards were trying to calm the panicking citizens, assuring them everything was under control. Fong, however, was sweating bullets. What was supposed to be a quiet class change mission had turned into a full-blown citywide alert. Fong was hoping everyone would calm down so he could quietly drive home and pretend none of this chaos had happened. But fate had other plans. A massive black fissure suddenly tore open above the city's shield, and a demonic face emerged from the crack. One by one, demons began pouring through. One of them stared down at the glowing barrier, realizing this was the human world, while another mocked how fragile humans were and how much they loved hiding behind magical defenses. Their horned leader raised his hand dramatically and ordered his army to give the humans a surprise. Their attack began immediately. The city's shield cracked under the pressure, shocking the guards who had no idea what to do. Everyone could only watch as the expensive magical defense system turned into little more than decoration. Panic swept through the streets as civilians began trampling one another in fear. Duan was the first to move, recognizing the scale of the invasion. He said this looked like another high-level kingdom attack. Fong, comparing it to the chaos from the previous night, asked what they should do. Duan found it odd. Someone as powerful as Fong shouldn't need instructions. He assumed Fong was testing him. Taking the hint, Duan told him to stand back while he handled things. Fong figured with so many civilians around, letting Duan take the lead wasn't a bad choice. The horned demon landed in the middle of the city, laughing like a villain. Soldiers tried shooting arrows, but they bounced harmlessly off his body. One brave fighter leapt onto his back, only to be sent flying with a single punch, so hard he might have landed in the next district. The demon mocked humanity's weakness while advancing toward a terrified child. Just as he was about to strike, Duan appeared, blocking the attack and saving the girl. The demon roared in fury at being interrupted, but Duan didn't flinch. He struck back, overwhelming the creature in close combat. His blows were so fast and heavy that the onlookers could barely keep up. When the demon finally exploded from the impact, everyone watching stood speechless. They assumed Duan must belong to a 5-star hidden class, because no ordinary fighter could move like that. When the dust cleared, Duan's level was revealed, 137, and a legendary martial artist. Fong observed calmly, realizing Duan was far more capable than he initially thought. With their leader gone, the remaining demons panicked and retreated into the rift. Soldiers yelled to counterattack, and Duan approached Fong again, asking if there was anything else to do. Fong gave him a thumbs up, complimenting his work. Those nearby, seeing Duan's respectful tone, started whispering that Fong must be someone important if a warrior like Duan treated him that way. Duan handed Fong the items that had dropped from the boss. They were of legendary quality. Even if Fong couldn't use them, selling them would easily earn him tens of thousands of crystals. Around them, people shouted offers to help, asking if they needed anything. Fong thought about how one of the agility skill books would be perfect for Wang Yu and made a mental note to sell the Black Shield later. A priest and a warrior stepped forward to thank them for saving the city. The man leading them introduced himself as Mudong Ming, the mayor of Longbow. He politely asked if they were from outside the city since they looked unfamiliar. Fong explained they had only come for some business and ended up caught in the invasion. The mayor, sweating under Fong's calm but intimidating gaze, panicked and started apologizing profusely, as if the attack had been his fault personally. Fong assured him it wasn't their fault and admitted the situation was partly his own doing. Wanting to make amends, the mayor ordered someone to bring a flight scroll he had just purchased and offered it to them as compensation. Fong was surprised flight scrolls were rare, especially in smaller cities, and even though they could only be used once, they allowed long-distance travel instantly. The mayor then made a hesitant request. With all the recent instability, he asked if they could stay in Longbow a little longer to help reinforce its weak defenses. But mid-sentence, he sighed and said it didn't matter, realizing they must have their own urgent mission. Fong thought about his class change quest, which only had 3 days remaining. Staying here any longer would mean losing his chance to complete it. Seeing the seriousness in Fong's eyes, the mayor quickly changed his tone and said it was fine. They could go and handle their priorities. One of the mayor's guards returned with the scroll and handed it over, along with a black card from the Yuan Chung Trading Guild, a symbol of high respect given to only a handful of people. Fong was impressed and accepted it as a gesture of goodwill. Before leaving, the mayor asked that if Longbow was ever in danger again, they could rely on Fong's help. Fong replied that he would assist if time allowed, and then they used the scroll, flying away from the city. Back in Chinyu City, Wang Yu's guildmates had just finished their own class change missions and were chatting. Yu looked up and spotted two people flying overhead, thinking one might be Fong. Zhao laughed, saying there was no way someone who had just awakened could afford a flight scroll worth thousands. Yu turned toward him sharply, eyes cold, warning him not to talk about Fong like that again. To ease the tension, Su changed the subject, asking about their mission ranks. Xiao said he had only managed to get a Class A and not the golden rank like others hoped for. The group started hyping up Jod for completing his second transformation at 18, calling him a university-tier genius. When they asked Yu about hers, she stayed quiet, which made everyone assume she had failed or received a low rank. The Berserker teased her, wondering if she got stuck with a C class. Breaking her silence, Yu finally revealed that her mission had been S-class. The room went dead silent. Everyone stared at her in disbelief. Who asked why she hadn't said so earlier? Yu explained that her case was unusual. Her mission had unlocked a hidden class she didn't even know existed. Jod was stunned. He said that shouldn't be possible since classes are usually determined when someone first awakens. Yu thought back to her experience during the mission selection, where the system had detected a key item, the Vanguard emblem, that allowed her to advance her original profession of Swift Archer into a hidden class called Shadow of the Vanguard. She remembered how confident Fong had been when he gave her that emblem, and started to wonder if he had known its true value all along. After hearing her story, Pai was annoyed that she had accepted so quickly without hesitation. Jiao shouted in disbelief, asking what Shadow of the Vanguard even was, and suggesting maybe the system was malfunctioning. He warned that making the wrong class choice could ruin her entire life. The Berserker, meanwhile, looked jealous, amazed that she had not only received a 5-star hidden profession, but also managed to advance it. Su sighed, half joking that he wished he'd had a childhood friend like Fong too. Hearing all this, Yo becomes furious, thinking he needs to send someone to find an emblem too, no matter the cost or danger. Meanwhile, Fong grabs his secret emblem, which permanently grants him 5 additional life and spirit attribute points. He laughs, saying not only did his attributes increase significantly, but he also got new passive abilities, wondering how far he can push his control over forbidden spells. The system tells him he acquired the passive ability Domain of Darkness. His control over darkest power greatly increased, letting him manipulate forbidden spells with precision. Outside, Duan is still waiting when Jing shows up. She looks at him and thinks, wow, this guy is young, but already has scary power. Even across the country, he would rank near the top. Every time her team saw him, he was walking a step behind Fong. Jane mutters to Chi that Fong's student is not someone you can push around. Then she waves it off and says fine, she'll let Chai handle this mess. She nods and says she will check with Fong. In her mind, she's certain that he can never beat her enemy. Meanwhile, Fong and Dan stroll along chatting. When she calls out, Fong asks if she want to talk. She says yes. Dan calls him boss, which makes Fong flinch. The teacher looks confused, and Fong quickly says don't mind it. Dan is just joking. She suddenly asks Fong if he has finished his first transformation. He freezes. He didn't plan to hide forever, but wow, that was fast. Still, he trusts Chi more than most, so he admits yes, and says he wants only a few people to know. She follows up with another question, asking if he has been touched by the power of darkness. Fong almost chokes. He wonders how she guessed, but she explains the world is shifting. The secret realms are leaking into reality, and people are mutating. Fong says he is fine, not a mutant, and really not looking to join that club. She pulls out a crystal detector, asking him to inject energy so they can check his darkness levels. Fong touches the crystal, and it explodes as soon as he does. She starts trembling, remembering her conversation with Jing, where Jing explained it was a black crystal, highly sensitive to darkest power, frequently used by the government to detect mutants. When there's darkest power, the crystal vibrates. The stronger the vibrations, the greater the amount of darkest power. Looking at the shattered crystal in her hand, she wonders what it means for it to explode like that. Fong starts explaining how awakening and immediately changing class is weird as hell, but he's pulling the "you've known me forever" card, asking Chai to at least believe he's not completely insane. She's sitting there thinking about how this kid lost his parents young, awakened later than everyone else, and somehow still maintains his optimistic attitude. She explains that personally she trusts him, but protocol-wise, she's got to report to her superiors. Fong gets it, but he's also thinking that even though she says she trusts him, he has no clue how the authorities will react to his situation. His best bet here is to get the hell out of Chinyu City. She whips out some glowing item, making Fong ask what it was. She explains it's a congratulatory gift for successfully completing his first class change. Fong accepts it gratefully, thanking her for all the years she took care of him. But Fong's got his own present. He pulls out the sacred wings of legendary quality, a godlike item with plus 20 spirit points, 50% better healing, and 100% darkness resistance. The Noken effect alone could save lives in critical moments. Her jaw drops because this thing is incredibly valuable, but Fong insists it's just random loot from his class change mission, telling her to accept it without being shy. After handing it over, Fong bounces, saying his friend's waiting. The teacher watches him leave, wondering what the hell just happened. Chai heads to report everything to the adventure examiner's office. After explaining the whole situation, Jing stares at the crystal, saying she's never seen anything like this. When she asks if the superiors might consider Fong a threat, Jing just sighs and says to drop it entirely. She's confused, asking what she means. Jing drops some wisdom. The kid's probably beyond her understanding, and if he's genuinely powerful, they should be recruiting him instead of investigating him and pissing him off unnecessarily. When asked about reporting it, Jing says absolutely not. Stop the investigation immediately and keep everything classified. Meanwhile, back at Fong's place, Duan notices his boss looks depressed. Fong slumps on the couch, explaining that the teacher messaged about canceling the investigation. When Dan asks if that's good news, Fong worries about future training since every time he destroys a domain, it attracts too much attention. Dan's thinking that being a great leader comes with problems regular people can't imagine. Then he gets an idea. What about training in unregistered domains? Fong perks up immediately. Dan explains that with all the world changes, new domains are appearing everywhere, some unmanaged due to lack of resources, others occupied by evil forces. Fong gets excited, asking if Duan has intel on these domains. Dan confirms he's got information on 2 and can find more if needed. Duan confirms he knows of 2 and can locate more if needed. Deciding to lay low, Fong plans to live like an ordinary person instead of a student. He glances at his Supreme Black Card, thinking of selling some loot to prepare for his next move. Later that night, Duan returns to the hotel. He realizes he spent too much time at Fong's place and didn't look for another room, so he decides to stay another night. As he enters, he's greeted by a man in a suit, the mayor of Chinyu City, JMG. The mayor thanks him for his help during the domain invasion and asks if he'd like to stay in the city permanently. Duan agrees, saying he's been considering it. Without wasting time, the mayor hands him a special adventurer certificate with high privileges and promises full support whenever he needs it. He's aware that other cities had tried to recruit Duan before and failed, and since Chinyu is small, he hopes Duan won't look down on it. Duan accepts, thinking it might come in handy for Fong later. The mayor, feeling proud to have a powerhouse in the city, offers to arrange housing for Duan right away. Meanwhile, Fong is gaming late into the night when he checks his class group chat, which is filled with complaints about awakening at 16 and reaching advancement levels for university exams. Fong's already far beyond that, but they don't know it. They start gossiping, saying he's just wasting time or stalking his teacher's social media. Teacher Chi steps in to shut them up, reminding them to mind their own business. Soon, the conversation shifts to rumors about secret realm invasions, making everyone anxious. Fong recalls what Chi and Duan said about the world changing, and also remembers the invasion where some monsters escaped. Somewhere in the distortion world, a boss sneezes, feeling an odd premonition. The next day, at the Chung Trading Exchange, Shin returns to work despite still being injured from the distortion monster attack. Her co-workers question why she's back so soon, but she brushes it off. Gossip starts to spread. Someone claims Fong's a reckless thief who messed with a powerful figure. Shin defends him, but another colleague insists that Mr. Wong looked into Fong's past and found he's just an 18-year-old nobody with a one-star job, dead parents, and no money. To her, it's obvious Fong must have stolen something. Just then, Fong arrives and creates a stone spike that startles the gossiping woman, knocking her down. He apologizes but mentions she was being too rude and nearly made him lose control. She panics and yells for the guards, since using magic inside the exchange is forbidden. Shin urges him to leave, knowing the exchange holds major influence and isn't a place to cause trouble. But Fong stays calm. Guards rush in with Chief Wong, who demands to know how this nobody dares show up again. Accusing Fong of being a thief, Wong orders the guards to seize him. Fong responds by pulling out his supreme black card, and the entire room goes silent. Everyone is stunned, unable to understand how someone like Fong could possibly have it. Wong immediately assumes the supreme black card is fake, convinced there's no way a broke kid like Fong could possess something so rare. Fong simply puts the card away and tells them to go ahead and investigate it since they seem to be good at that. Wong decides to verify and makes a call while a curious crowd gathers outside the trading exchange. When he contacts the mayor's office, Doming picks up and asks if someone is investigating the card he personally gave to Fong. Realizing the situation, Wong starts sweating and stammers that it's a misunderstanding, especially since the mayor's father helped found the trading exchange. Doming gets furious, yelling through the call, demanding to know what misunderstanding he's talking about. He makes it clear that Fong is someone important and asks if Wong offended him. Panicking, Wong insists he didn't and promises to resolve everything immediately. The mayor, furious and suspicious that Wong really did offend Fong, slams his desk and says he's coming there himself. As the call ends, Wong's left trembling, wondering how Fong knows Doming and what kind of relationship they have. Then, in desperation, he decides to contact Duan, thinking if Duan shows up, his presence might calm the situation since even the mayor respects him. Meanwhile, Fong is calmly sitting in the waiting room with Shin. Suddenly, the doors swing open and both the mayor and Duan rush in together. Shin is shocked to see such high-ranking people personally arriving for Fong. Both men look furious, glaring at the gossiping woman who had started the whole mess. She freezes in terror, asking why they're staring at her like that. Turning around, she sees Wong looking utterly defeated. When she asks what happened, he can only mutter that it's all over. Doming looks at Fong and asks if he wants them to apologize, but Fong says there's no need, since any apology wouldn't be sincere and nothing they say could change what happened. Doming then points at Wong and the woman, ordering them to leave immediately. In a fit of panic, Wong slaps the woman and blames her for everything, which only angers the mayor more. Doming orders the guards to escort them out on the spot. Afterward, everyone moves to a VIP room where Shin serves tea. The mayor watches her quietly, thinking Fong has surprisingly good taste and feeling relieved that the city's reputation wasn't completely ruined by the earlier scene. Shin's still in disbelief, watching Fong casually converse with the mayor and Duan as if they were old friends. Doming turns to her, acknowledging that she was treated unfairly and assuring her that the trading exchange will compensate her properly. She feels embarrassed but grateful for his words. Fong apologizes to the mayor for making him travel all the way there, but Doming waves it off, saying Fong's problems are also his. Without Fong's help, Longo City might have been destroyed. Then, noticing Fong's earlier interest in the rare items, Doming asks if there's something specific he's looking for. Fong chuckles and asks if he's heard of something called the Relic of the End. Both Doming and Duan are taken aback, clearly intrigued. Fong plays it off casually, saying he only read about it online and thought it sounded interesting. A flashback shows Fong using a skill book gifted by his teacher, one typically used by mages to temporarily restore mana during battles. Upon learning it, the system notifies him that he's gained a passive ability called Darkness Convergence. which absorbs residual dark energy from something called the Relic of the End and converts it into his own energy. The name is new to him, and since the system doesn't provide details, he decides to think about it later, too tired to dig deeper at that moment. Returning to the present, Doming mentions that his last visit was rushed and invites them to Longbu City, promising to cover all expenses. He activates a flying scroll and takes off, leaving them watching as he soars away. Duan then invites Fong over for dinner. Fong is stunned by the sheer size of Duan's house and jokes about whether the mayor is the one paying for it. Duan explains that anyone above the 4th transformation level gets special treatment in Chinyu City and even offers Fong a chance to move there. Fong grins and says he'll earn money and buy his own house soon, so they can be neighbors. Duan offers to lend him money, but Fong politely refuses, thinking about the crystals he earned from selling his gear. He realizes that if he buys a house now, he'll have fewer resources for later, so he decides to wait for the right time. As they relax with tea, Duan gets a call from Chinyu City's mayor. An investigation team from higher authorities has arrived to look into the recent disasters, and they want to question him. Duan worries this might bring trouble for Fong, so he tells the mayor he's busy and can't meet them today. Fong, curious, asks about this investigation group since he's never heard of them before. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, a strange man comments on how weird everything feels lately and mentions rumors of a mysterious great boss. The scene shifts to a meeting room filled with officials trying to uncover who this mysterious figure is. Jing acts unaware, but one of the higher-ups grows suspicious, questioning the rumors that someone single-handedly saved the city. Jing explains that the secret area invasion abruptly stopped and all mutants were wiped out, which indeed sounds too perfect. The man, however, insists they can't just assume anything without a proper investigation. He mentions another incident involving 2 king-level attacks and demands a full report on what this mysterious person actually did. During the tense exchange, Chi grows nervous. She knows Jing used her power to erase all data connected to Fong to protect him, which means all responsibility for the missing information now falls on her. The mayor enters the meeting, announcing that he contacted Duan, but Duan refused to attend. This enrages the official, who slams his hands on the table, ranting about out-of-control adventurers who think they're above everyone because they lack guild supervision. After the meeting, the furious man heads straight for the secret area. Guards let him pass easily, saying they feel safer with him there, unaware they've just allowed a dangerous individual inside. Within the ruins, he examines the remaining traces of dark energy, fascinated by the sheer destruction. He marvels at the strength it must have taken to annihilate the place, saying that even the rumored mysterious boss would seem like an insect before such overwhelming power. Then, he raises his hand and summons a demonic entity from the darkness. Grinning wildly, he calls it a king-level being filled with immense energy and declares that he wants that power for himself. Back at Duan's home, Fong is playing his game when a system alert appears, notifying him that the Relic of the End has been located. Surprised, he realizes something is connecting with him through a strange aura. By focusing, he senses its position and decides to check it out. Telling Duan he's heading out, he rushes to catch a taxi, tracking the signal toward the cemetery. As he approaches, he notices the energy shifting. Whatever it is, it's moving. At the cemetery, guards witness a demon emerging from a portal. Panicked, they radio for support, describing an unknown monster beyond their control. The creature fuses with the man from earlier, turning him into something even worse. The guards are paralyzed with fear, and the area is sealed off as a precaution. When Fong's taxi reaches the blockade, the driver refuses to go further, so Fong pays and continues on foot. Sensing the monster's presence retreating temporarily, he knows it's reacting to incoming reinforcements. Soon after, Jing arrives with Professor Chi and another ally, charging toward the disturbance. But the moment they see the scene, they freeze in shock. By the time the fight ends, Jing lies gravely injured in Chi's arms while Chi desperately tries to heal her. Jing can barely speak, her condition critical. She realizes the equipment Fong gave her earlier helped shorten spell cooldowns, but even that wasn't enough. Jing trembles, asking where the creature went. She replies that it's heading toward the city center, and Mayor Jin has already called Duan for help, though she doubts he can handle it alone, since their power levels are close. The creature begins wreaking havoc across the city when Fong arrives, his expression dark with anger. He sees the relic glowing larger than before and the monster glaring at him like a feral beast. Weighing his options, Fong wonders if he'll need additional forbidden spells to end this. Before he can decide, the creature lunges straight for him. Fong waits until the last second, then raises his dark shield, blocking the impact effortlessly. The creature recoils in disbelief at Fong's strength. A system prompt appears, asking if Fong wants to absorb the final relic. He accepts immediately, unleashing dark energy toward the monster and absorbing it while it screams in agony. Through this, Fong gains memory fragments and an incredible boost of 100 total attributes, more than what most 3-star classes earn from full transformations. However, he notices strange visions flashing through his mind, suggesting he absorbed something extra. Duan soon arrives, shocked by the destruction. Fong gestures casually at the monster's remains, saying it appeared out of nowhere and he handled it. Duan spots Banji unconscious nearby and assumes Fong defeated him too. The chaotic energy in the area doesn't resemble normal spell damage, confusing Duan even more. Fong pats Duan on the shoulder, asking him to handle cleanup since he arrived at the right time, then flies off at high speed. Duan stands speechless, amazed that Fong, supposedly a mage, can move faster than many combat specialists. Later, at Tennu Prison, Banji is locked up after confessing that he tried controlling the demon. Jing explains during the report that he discovered it in a secret dimension and attempted to use dark energy to empower himself. Instead, the creature went berserk. The mayor, hearing this, expresses relief that the mysterious great boss once again intervened to protect the city, ensuring its safety. Jin and Professor Chi smiled proudly, seeing how well their student was doing. The mayor then asked Dawn if he had ever met this so-called great boss. Duan replied that he had been lucky enough to encounter him once, surprising the two women present. Mayor Jiang, intrigued, asked Duan for a favor. If this mysterious boss could be convinced to settle permanently in Xinyu City, the city would provide for all his needs. Duan explained that the great boss was discreet and rarely showed himself, suggesting that they should let go of the idea. In truth, Duan was thinking about how he managed to shift all the attention onto a person who didn't even exist. Without evidence, no one could investigate anything, and the matter would die out naturally. The mayor sighed in disappointment, saying it was a pity because powerful figures like the great boss were admired by everyone. Duan added that the boss supposedly had relatives in Xinyu City, so he would look after the place, but he didn't want to be disturbed. Jing found that interesting, but accepted it. Professor Chi, however, began to wonder if this mysterious boss might somehow be related to Fong. Back at Fong's place, he was relaxing in a bath, lost in thought. He had discovered that the final relic was actually made from the remains of demon kings who died in secret dimensions. The strange visions he saw earlier were memory fragments from those demon kings, absorbed along with the relic. Fong wasn't interested in becoming a demon king himself, but he realized that the fragments could still be useful. These secret dimensions went through cycles of power strengthening, and if the invaded time and space couldn't withstand it, chaos would follow. In his current world, the Awakened training path was incomplete. Only a few had reached the 4th level, and Awakened professions hadn't yet achieved their ideal forms. The information from the Demon King's memories painted a grim picture. If things continued like this, humanity was doomed. Even if Fong protected himself, living in a world overrun by monsters wasn't something he wanted. Still, not all realities were failing. Some had successfully fought off the invasions. If he could gather more fragments and extract useful experiences, it could give them an advantage. But he also knew that mishandling such knowledge could bring unpredictable consequences. Just then his phone rang. It was Yua, inviting him to dinner that evening to celebrate. She had completed her S-Class mission and transitioned to the Vanguard Shadow class. Fong accepted immediately, saying he couldn't refuse her invitation, which made her happy. She sent him the restaurant's location right away. Afterward, Yua and Jiao left the transformation area, greeted by guild members waiting with confetti to celebrate their achievement. Everyone congratulated them for reaching the second level at such a young age. Xiao invited Yua to dinner at the city's best restaurant, but she said she already had plans and told them to go ahead without her. She also announced that she would host an event the next day and wanted everyone to attend. Shirao wondered if they shouldn't rest after all that work, but Yua said it was important and couldn't be postponed. She left as everyone watched. Shirao grew annoyed, saying they had just reached the second level and were already running into disagreements. She tried to calm him down, reminding him that Yua was always like this and probably had something important planned. Shirao questioned whether everyone was getting tired of chasing after her, surprising the others. Jiao explained that now that Yua had completed her S-Class transition and awakened to hidden class, the gap between her and everyone else would only grow wider. As they watched her walk away, Jiao admitted he feared she might one day leave the guild entirely. Later that night, Fong met Yua at the restaurant for the celebration dinner. He was enjoying the roasted lamb, amazed that such delicious food came from a modest place, and encouraged her to try it. He joked that he was only there because he followed her lead. Yua thanked him for giving her the emblem, saying it had helped her a lot. As Fong ate, he grew curious and asked if the emblem had triggered a new hidden class for her. He thought about the Demon King memories again, about how professions in those worlds hadn't reached their ideal forms, and wondered if emblems could be a way to achieve that. Yua asked if he knew where those emblems came from. Fong laughed, admitting he wasn't sure. She sighed in frustration, wishing they could buy them, because then she'd give one to him and the other teammates. Fong smiled, feeling glad that she still cared about others even while achieving great things. She told him not to worry and to keep training, since having extra self-defense skills was always useful. She promised that once she found a suitable emblem for him, he might unlock a new class as well. Fong teased her, saying it was hard to train alone and that having her as a friend for protection was enough. Yua got flustered, telling him to stop joking because she was being serious. Suddenly, she felt a sharp pain in her arm. Fong grew concerned, but she told him not to worry. She had gotten slightly injured during the mission. He offered to heal her, but she explained she had already received treatment. It had been an S-Class mission, and the boss had dealt heavy damage, so she just needed more time to recover. Fong quietly wondered how tough S-Class professions really were. Just then, his phone rang again. Someone on the other end asked if he was Ning Fong. He didn't answer directly, just asked who they were and what they wanted. The caller spoke aggressively, refusing to identify himself and demanding Fong tell him where he got the emblem. Annoyed, Fong hung up. Yua noticed his tense expression and asked what happened. He told her someone was asking about the emblem, which startled her since she hadn't mentioned it to anyone. Fong brushed it off, telling her to relax and enjoy dinner. But the call hadn't disconnected. When he answered again, the man shouted, furious that Fong had hung up on him and vowing he'd pay for it. Fong listened for a few seconds, then hung up once more, thinking it best not to cause a scene with Yua nearby. After they finished eating, both left the restaurant in good spirits. Fong was full and laughed, saying he had never eaten such good lamb. Yua smiled, but asked if he needed a ride home. Fong declined politely and said goodbye. Back at his house, Fong unlocked the door, still feeling sleepy from the heavy meal, but immediately froze. The place was a mess, furniture overturned, drawers open, and things scattered everywhere. Someone stepped out calmly, asking why he had taken so long to come home. Fong's expression hardened as he asked if it was him who had called earlier. The blond man laughed, confirming it and saying that he warned Fong he'd pay for hanging up. He claimed that if Fong had just answered honestly, none of this would have happened. Fong asked who sent him. The blond man sneered, mocking Fong for daring to question someone stronger and ridiculing him for not showing proper respect. Before Fong could react further, another man tried sneaking up from behind, dagger in hand. Fong's reflexes kicked in. He dodged swiftly and countered with a sharp elbow strike to the attacker's face, sending him crashing into the wall, unconscious. The blonde man froze, terrified by what he just witnessed. Fong laughed, telling him to calm down. The blonde man was drenched in sweat, realizing the information they had received was completely wrong. There was no way Fong was just a low-level awakened. He couldn't believe a 3-star assassin had just been taken down by someone who hadn't even used magic. Still panicking, he reached for a shuriken and noticed Fong's stats, over 100 points in total, with terrifying reaction speed and range. Fong himself realized how easily he could handle threats now without magic. The blonde man threw the shuriken, but Fong dodged effortlessly. Realizing escape was the only option, he bolted toward the balcony and leapt, but Fong grabbed his leg mid-jump and slammed him face-first into the wall. Once both intruders were subdued, Fong ordered them to clean up the mess they made and shouted that they'd also be paying for the broken cabinet. After cleaning up, the blonde man said everything was done and that their belongings were on the table. Fong crossed his arms, saying that was fine, but now he wanted to know who sent them. With his face swollen and bruised, the blonde man finally confessed. He said they were hired by Master Jiao Chun of the Lion Guild, who wanted information about Fong's unique emblem that couldn't be found anywhere else. Fong grew thoughtful, realizing that Jiao was probably the same mage from Yua's guild. If that was true, then this whole attack made sense. His expression darkened as he decided not to hold back anymore. He still had a forbidden ability he hadn't tested yet. Fong activated soul-seizing darkness, channeling his mental energy to dominate their minds and manifest a dark projection. The two intruders screamed in agony as their consciousnesses were overtaken. Meanwhile, Jiao and a shield warrior were walking together. The warrior asked about the emblem, and Jiao replied that he had already sent someone to deal with Fong. If Fong didn't cooperate, he'd make him suffer a fate worse than death. The warrior hesitated, asking what would happen if Yua found out. Jiao brushed it off, saying it didn't matter. The warrior mentioned how the mission hadn't gone as expected. Jiao recalled how his plan had been for the shield warrior to take on the boss alone to undermine Yua's progress and frighten her. Then he'd step in as a hero. Instead, Yua had risked everything and defeated the boss herself. Suddenly, a figure appeared before them. Jiao recognized him as one of the men he had sent to find Fong and immediately got angry, demanding to know why he had returned without warning and whether he had the information. But what Jiao didn't realize was that Fong was now controlling the man's body. Inside the possessed body, Fong's anger surged as he remembered Yua's injury. The two subordinates stood frozen in shock as he confronted them, asking if they were the ones responsible. When Jiao approached and carelessly touched the blonde man's face, Fong lost control. He grabbed both their necks and lifted them off the ground, his presence radiating power and fury. He said they didn't deserve to live for hurting Yua, but he wouldn't let them die easily either. Black flames erupted, engulfing everything around them. The fire wasn't normal. It burned from the inside out until nothing was left. Fong knew he had to destroy the blonde man's body to erase all traces of evidence. Once everything was reduced to ashes, he realized his home was no longer safe. Powerful awakened individuals could enter at any time, and he couldn't guard it constantly. He had planned to dive deeper into the Demon King's memories for more information, but it was good he hadn't started yet. Getting caught mid-process would have been disastrous. Deciding it was safer elsewhere, Fong went to stay at Duan's place. Duan, whose fourth transformation had already awakened, had a heavily guarded home. When Fong explained what had happened, Duan was furious and told Fong to rest while he investigated further to see if anyone else was involved. Attacking Fong directly was basically asking for death, but Fong stayed calm and told Duan to relax. He asked if Duan knew any reliable alchemists. Duan was confused and asked what kind Fong was looking for. Fong explained he needed someone highly skilled, trustworthy, and preferably independent, with as few guild ties as possible. Duan said there were plenty of good alchemists around, but most worked for big guilds. That immediately ruled them out for Fong, since he knew from the Demon King's memories that guild alchemists made some of the best potions in existence. The problem was those memories only gave him the recipes, not the techniques. He needed a professional who could break them down properly. Guild alchemists were out of the question since they were walking information leaks waiting to happen. Fong decided to call Yua and ask if she knew anyone suitable. Yua said she knew one reliable alchemist, Shuai, her teammate's brother. Apparently, Shuai almost joined her guild once, but backed out after clashing with Jiao-chan. Fong thought it was just Yua's luck to have been stuck with someone like Jiao, but at least that issue was now taken care of. When Yua asked why he suddenly needed an alchemist, Fong told her he found some recipes at home and wanted help understanding them. She got suspicious and asked if he'd found something again, but he laughed it off, joking that he was just doing a bit of spring cleaning. They met with Shuai, and Fong handed over the recipes. Outside, Shuai's sister, Shu, was irritated because she had hoped to use this meeting as an excuse to get closer to Fong, but Shuai had kicked her out of the lab. Inside, the alchemist studied the recipes carefully and said the ingredients weren't rare, but the method of preparation was completely new and incredibly complicated. When Fong mentioned the potion was supposed to increase experience by 100%, Shuai's jaw nearly hit the floor. Normal experience potions could only boost by up to 40%, and those were already expensive. A 100% boost would let even 2-star Awakened level up ridiculously fast. Fong simply smiled, saying he wasn't sure yet and couldn't just ask around about something that unusual, which was why he needed help. Shuai told him to wait while he ran some experiments upstairs. The others stayed downstairs chatting until strange noises came from above. Worried, Shu went to check and saw something jumping around. It was one of Shuai's experimental slimes. Just as Fong and Yua joined her, a burst of fire shot across the room, nearly hitting them. They rushed over and saw Shuai celebrating like crazy. He explained that he drank a small amount of the potion and tested it on the slime, confirming the 100% experience boost worked perfectly. Fong realized if this recipe worked, the others likely would too. Shuai, thrilled by his success, kept throwing fireballs at the slime. His sister explained that he was always obsessed with his lab and never let her go upstairs, and now he was practically blowing it up himself. After Fong explained the potion's effect to the girls, they were amazed. Shuai quickly told everyone to keep quiet, reminding them this discovery needed absolute secrecy. It was basically liquid gold. Shuai asked what Fong planned to do next, since selling a potion like that could make him unimaginably rich. Given how dangerous the world had become, no one would turn down something that made them stronger. Before Fong could respond, his phone buzzed with a message from his class group chat. The school had announced that all third-year students would be heading to a secret training site in a neighboring city next Monday. Due to limited space, each class would have assigned areas and schedules. Teachers instructed everyone to prepare and cooperate actively. After the announcement, the chat filled with complaints about scarce experience points, limited training space, and no available potions. Fong read through the messages, thinking about what to do next. An idea struck him. He'd first use the experience potions to strengthen his close companions, then sell them later when things stabilized. Shu excitedly asked if that meant she was one of his companions. Fong said yes, making her and Yua thrilled, both promising to act as his bodyguards from now on. While they celebrated, Fong's mind was already working through strategy. He knew once a potion like this hit the market, chaos would follow. Greedy types like Jiao-chun would swarm in immediately. To stay safe, he needed strong allies by his side, people he could rely on. Once his circle was prepared, he could face whatever came next. He then remembered the berserker from their guild, Zhou Jiangshu, who was stressed about getting into university. Even in a world filled with monsters and magic, it seemed some worries, like school, never changed. Kong observes Fong quietly, thinking he's actually quite talented and could be useful in the future. Soon after, Shuer approaches Fong, asking if he can call him brother and begging for more recipes. Fong casually hands him another one, but as Four Eyes reads it, his face turns pale. He only recognizes 2 ingredients and quickly realizes he's way out of his depth. Fong suddenly remembers these recipes are from a completely different world, which explains why they're so confused. You suggest they all train together once the experience potions are ready, giving Fong a pat on the shoulder and telling him he should join too. Fong immediately starts to panic inside, pretending not to understand because he knows he'll get exposed during training. But she mentions that the city just issued a notice allowing guild teams to train, so it's fine for him to come along. They plan to start on Monday after Xiaowei calculates how long it'll take to make enough potions for everyone. When Monday arrives, Fong reaches the meeting point early and calls to let her know. She tells him to wait by the roadside. Moments later, a school bus passes by carrying his old classmates. They spot him standing there and can't believe their eyes. They start laughing, mocking him, calling him useless, and quickly lose interest. Meanwhile, a huge crowd gathers at the entrance of the secret training area. Fong's class shows up too, and one of the students asks their teacher when they'll be allowed in. She says about 2 hours since they're part of the second group. The students start complaining about the wait, but one of them suddenly points ahead and spots Fong standing with you and her lion guild. That's when the chaos begins. The students are confused and furious, demanding to know why Fong's group gets to skip the line. The teacher explains that since Fong is a guild leader, his team gets direct access to the heart of the training area, where there are fewer people but much stronger monsters. One of the jealous students loses his temper, saying he should be the one next to you. His friends join in, saying Fong won't last long since the monsters there could kill him easily. Just then, a stranger overhears them and asks if they're talking about you, who's ranked 5th on the supernova list. When they confirm, the man smiles, saying it's perfect, and walks off toward the portal with 2 other people, all skipping the line. This makes the students even angrier. One girl explains the 3 of them are also on the supernova list, Chong Muchu ranked 4th, Muslad Geek 3rd, and Guanju 2nd. Fong's team finally reaches the center of the secret training area. Shuei tosses an experience potion to Jiang Shu, and the Berserker completely loses it when he realizes it's a 100% boost potion. He starts shouting in excitement until Ku smacks him, reminding him to keep quiet before others find out about their advantage. Jiang Shu asks if the potion is valuable, and Four Eyes explains it isn't difficult to make since the ingredients are common and the process is simple, but that's what makes the recipe so valuable. High reward, low cost. He even adds that with just this one recipe, Fong could become an honorary guest at any major guild. The group gets emotional, with Jiang Shu pounding his chest, promising to repay Fong for everything. Fong just laughs awkwardly, saying they're all teammates and there's no need for that. Yu watches from the side, quietly thinking about Fong's past. She remembers how he failed his awakening at 16 and was mocked by everyone, making him more withdrawn over time. Seeing him now, surrounded by friends and smiling again, makes her genuinely happy. After a moment, she clears her throat to get everyone's attention and outlines their plan. Since they don't have a proper tank or a magic DPS, Fong doesn't need to fight and should focus on avoiding monsters. She'll draw the monsters in. Jiang Shu will handle damage. Exu will manage buffs and protection, and Shuei will handle potions. Fong agrees, though he feels frustrated since this setup will slow his progress. Still, out of respect for you, he decides to follow the plan, knowing he can always train alone later using his hidden powers. The battle begins as Yu fires an arrow that explodes, drawing a swarm of monsters toward her. Fu enhances the Berserker's power, and Jiang Shu smashes the ground, sending a shock wave that wipes out several enemies. Shuei keeps throwing potions, grinning as his experience rises rapidly, thinking he might be able to make new potions soon. Both Exu and Jiang Shu cheer, excited at the thought of reaching the second stage before entrance exams, which could secure them a spot in top universities. Everything seems to be going perfectly until an eerie sound echoes from a nearby cave, announcing the arrival of unexpected visitors. Gu Yanju laughs coldly and apologizes for interrupting, claiming he couldn't resist after hearing someone who hasn't even reached the second stage talk about entering prestigious universities. Ku and the Berserker are both stunned, realizing these are the top-ranked students from the supernova list. Yanju seems pleased they recognized him so quickly. Everyone's confused why these big names are even here, considering they're supposed to be from the Chinyu area. Wanu steps forward, demanding to know what they want. Fong's group had been training peacefully until Yanju approached with his crew. He directly asks you if she wants to join his team. Shui and the Berserker are shocked, but Yu immediately declines, saying she already has her own group. Yinju refuses to take no for an answer, arrogantly adding that her team has Jio Chung, ranked 14th, and maybe he'd consider letting him join too, just as a favor to her. His arrogance only grows, and Yu, clearly irritated, repeats that she isn't interested. Yinju then goes on a condescending rant, explaining how the world is changing, monsters are growing stronger, universities are raising standards, and only team efforts matter now. He tries to enlighten her, claiming she's destined for greatness while her current teammates aren't, calling weakness the greatest sin. Yu's patience runs out, and she starts summoning her bow, but Yinju taunts her again, reminding her she's a ranged fighter and that close combat isn't her strength. Shui gently places a hand on her shoulder, suggesting they just find another place to train. The guild starts walking away, but Fong lingers, watching Yinju and wondering if you could actually beat him with her new class. That's when JK slams the ground and steps forward, asking if Fong is Jio Chung. When Fong says no, JK laughs and tells him to get lost because he's worthless. Fong's expression changes instantly. Jiang Shu steps up to defend him, asking JK not to be disrespectful, but JK throws a punch. Jiang Shu blocks it, but is completely overwhelmed. The hit breaks several ribs and drops him to his knees. He can barely breathe, realizing JK's strength is on another level, and tries to warn Fong not to get involved. JK calls them all pathetic, which only enrages Jiang Shu. He tries to power up for a counterattack, but JK is too fast. He's about to land another devastating blow, and Yu and Taksu start running to help, but they're too far away. Just before the punch lands, a hand appears and catches it effortlessly. It's Fong. Everyone freezes, shocked that the so-called weakling just stopped a berserker's punch with one hand. Fong doesn't say a word. He tightens his grip on JK's fist, yanks him forward with brutal strength, and throws him through the air like a rag doll. JK crashes into a pile of rocks that collapse on top of him, completely burying him. Fong turns back, smiling faintly, and calls JK useless. Yinju rushes to help his fallen teammate, but Yu, who's been charging her bow the entire time, releases an arrow that hits him squarely in the rear. The scene turns chaotic. Shui bursts out laughing at the sight of the arrogant tank hopping around in pain, while Muchu looks completely shaken. She can't process what she just witnessed, a mage casually taking out a berserker and an archer shooting a tank at point-blank range. Fong stands there breathing heavily, realizing he's blown his low-profile cover. He orders Yu to heal Jiang Shu, who's still recovering from his injuries. While she's treating him, Fong asks the berserker how he wants to deal with JK. Jiang Shu, still stunned, says he'll follow Fong's lead. Fong nods and tells him to take JK's equipment as payback. Yinju explodes in anger, accusing them of theft, but before he can finish, Fong appears right in front of him, face dark and calm, asking if he has a problem. Yinju immediately backs down, offering his own gear to ease the tension. Fong smiles, gives him a brief hug, and tells him he hates unnecessary trouble. If they ever try revenge, they'll regret it. Yinju promises they won't do anything stupid. Muchu, clearly intimidated, offers her equipment as well, handing it over to Shui. Fong calls her smart and tells them all to leave and train elsewhere. Muchu, embarrassed and empty-handed, walks away with the others. As Fong's group heads out, Yu admits she wanted to take him training but never expected him to be this strong. Fong laughs it off, reminding her that she already knew he'd changed classes recently. Yu sighs in frustration, saying she won't bother asking questions since he never gives her real answers anyway. Fong laughs lightly, telling Yu that she really does understand him better than anyone. She places a hand on his shoulder and says that no matter what happens, she's genuinely happy for him. Fong smiles and gives her a thumbs up, thanking her for being there. Nearby, Shui Wang and Jiang Shu start asking about his plans for university and guild applications, but Fong simply replies that he hasn't decided yet. He knows the strict management at both places could easily expose his secrets if he slips up, so staying undecided is the safest move for now. Soon after, Fong gets energized and suggests they head deeper into the secret area to gain experience faster. Even without relying on his forbidden magic, he's confident he can use attribute buffs and passive abilities to help his team progress smoothly. A few days later, the scene shifts to Fong lounging at Duan's place, grumbling about only gaining one level despite all his recent grinding. He's gotten too used to power leveling with forbidden spells, and now normal progress feels painfully slow. He reflects that for most people like you, it takes around 2 years to hit level 60. Maybe you should stop stressing about elite universities and just apply to a local one instead. Then he has a moment of realization. If he's stronger but still has to struggle like everyone else, what's even the point? So he decides to take a break. For the next few days, he lives lazily, playing games with Duan, sleeping in, and eating out. Life's good, at least until his phone rings. It's Shin telling him about an upcoming auction featuring high-value items. Apparently, Master Tang wants to know if Fong's interested. Bored and curious, Fong agrees, and Shin promises to send over the auction list. At the meeting, Master Tang Ikai introduces himself as an appraiser from a top trade exchange. He's polite and humble, but inwardly, he's nervous since the mayor specifically told him to treat Fong with utmost respect. Shin hands Fong the list, and Fong starts scanning through it. Most of the mage equipment and potions seem useless to him. Ikai, watching closely, starts to worry that Fong might leave unimpressed. Then Fong suddenly stops flipping the pages, his expression turning serious. Ikai perks up, thinking Fong found something special. It's an experience potion with a 100% boost, rare and highly valuable. But Fong's reaction isn't excitement, it's suspicion. He remembers discussing that exact recipe with Shui. Duan notices it too, and both realize something's not right. Fong asks where the auction got this item. Master Tang awkwardly explains that it came from the Blue Sharp Guild, one of the 7 major guilds in the country. Fong's thoughts start racing. Either Shui sold the formula behind his back, or the guild somehow obtained it through questionable means. He asks if they mentioned where it originated, and Tang says the source was a new phenomenon called the Trial of the Gods. The trial can only be entered alone and is divided into layers, with a reward every 10 levels. Apparently, the experience potion formula was one of those rewards. Duan admits it's the first he's heard of it, wondering if it's another anomaly. He points out that anyone entering a new dungeon typically needs to register through the local authorities. Fong starts worrying Shui might have gotten caught up in something bad, but the concept of the Trial of the Gods fascinates him too. Suddenly, Fong's system interface pops up, flashing a new mission. It instructs him to harness the power of the Trial of the Gods for his own gain within 60 days, or die trying. Instead of panicking, Fong feels an adrenaline rush. It's the first real mission he's been given, and he's excited. He thanks Ikai for the info, but decides to skip the auction. Tang is confused, unsure why Fong would turn down such a valuable item. Duan tells him he'll investigate further. Fong says he's not tagging along, but later changes his mind when Duan flashes the special badge the mayor gave him. Using it, they manage to get access to the trial site. The structure looks like a massive tower. Duan explains that the Azure Sharp Guild owns the rights, and outsiders aren't allowed in without permission. Fong starts wondering if all the big guilds monopolize resources this way. Determined to see it up close, he sneaks toward the entrance. Guards are stationed everywhere, and Fong assumes the guild spreads fake information online to attract strong adventurers. Confident in his stealth skills, he grins and teleports behind the guards. Just as he starts feeling clever, a sudden explosion rocks the area, sending everyone flying. At the guild's control station, chaos erupts. Staff shout about the explosion and rush to alert the president. Meanwhile, Fong materializes back home, lying on his bed covered in blood. He's in disbelief. He only touched the entrance, and it nearly killed him. His system starts flooding him with alerts. 3% damage, then 7%, then rapidly up to 34%. Fong stares at the screen, frustrated that not only is he injured, but even his cheat system is malfunctioning. Back at the trial site, investigators are examining the aftermath. A priest heals the injured guards while reporting to the guild president that everyone's stable. One guard wakes up, saying the trial door exploded the moment he touched it. The president, Hugh, realizes this sounds similar to previous reports of instance anomalies. A mage suggests using investigation magic, and Hugh agrees. They activate a time reversal spell, allowing them to view what happened seconds before the explosion. Hugh notes how fortunate it is that the realm had recording enchantments. As the rewind begins, the footage starts to reveal the real cause, a shadowy figure suddenly teleporting into the scene. Before anyone can react, another divine being appears, declaring the intruder an evil god and demanding how it dares step into their domain. The two deities clash, and the overwhelming energy from their battle leaves everyone watching in stunned silence. The term evil god echoes in their minds, shaking even the most composed leaders. As the battle ends, the divine being laments the escape of the mysterious entity, vowing to track it down before it brings destruction upon the world. The footage spreads quickly to the major guild headquarters, where leaders from all across the region gather to discuss what they've just witnessed. Liu Ying-jun confirms that this is the first solid proof that deities truly exist. Based on the spells shown, the power involved clearly surpasses mortal comprehension, reaching forbidden enchantment levels. Magic long thought to exist only in legends. Arc from the Epic Guild raises the question of whether the rumor is true, that those who complete the trials receive recognition and gifts from deities. Shu agrees, but admits that none of them ever imagined actual gods would appear in person. Ben Yilu Ling Ho from the Chuan Shu Guild points out that if forbidden spells capable of harming deities exist, then humanity could be facing a terrifying threat. Liu Yeming from Wangshu Guild adds that if a god truly intends to destroy the world, no force they possess can stop it. Then Wangbo from the Illuminati Guild suggests a risky but tempting idea. If the trials truly grant gifts from deities, perhaps those who complete them could gain forbidden enchantments of their own, enough to fight back. Jin Yangwen from the Blazing Guild agrees, seeing potential in the plan. However, Shu grows wary of their sudden interest, reminding them that the trial of the gods is not a playground. The creatures and artifacts within are beyond their current power levels, and none of them would survive if they recklessly entered. His words leave the entire room in uneasy silence. Breaking the tension, Ing Jin turns to Lao, asking if he has any insight to share. Lao, clearly frustrated, retorts that he's not the one supposed to have all the answers. He accuses them of caring only about protecting their own guilds while ignoring real dangers. He reminds them of when his apprentice reported an anomaly in Shiny Yu, something that everyone dismissed. Now, with the situation spiraling out of control, they suddenly form investigation teams that only worsen matters. Lao bitterly adds that without the intervention of a mysterious individual in Shiny Yu, innocent people might have been punished unjustly. Ing Jin, visibly uncomfortable, tells Lao to calm down before his temper flares up again. He silently notes that Lao's dark power usage seems to be worsening, despite his supposed retirement. Trying to regain order, Ing Jin asks Lao to have his apprentice share the investigation footage with a mysterious figure from Shiny Yu, hoping that this powerful person might shed light on what's happening. Lao sarcastically remarks that they only seem to remember his apprentice when they need something. Ing Jin bribes him with 2 crates of high-quality wine and the promise of an official commendation for his apprentice, which finally gets Lao's attention. The story then shifts to Fong at Duan's house, staring at his system interface. A new mission appears titled Don't Worry. It's described as a small task, reaching his second transformation and repairing the system within 60 days. But the penalty for failure is severe, practically life-threatening. Fong, unimpressed, mutters about how small this mission supposedly is, realizing his system is clearly toying with him. He walks into the living room and notices several guests with Duan. Lao rises and greets him, asking if he's Ning Fong. After introductions, Fong learns that Lao is the former head of Solitary Shadow and currently the director of adventure management. His apprentice, Miss Jing, is also present, responsible for overseeing Solitary Shadow's operations in their province. Lao breaks the ice with a teasing question, asking if Fong is the infamous Scarlet Flame Death God. Fong almost chokes, but Lao quickly laughs it off as a joke. Fong studies the man's aura and realizes he's dealing with one of the top 3 strongest individuals alive, a veteran with countless merits from exploring secret areas and destroying evil factions. Lao then presents Fong with an extravagant gift, 5 million crystals and 200 advanced experience potions as a congratulatory gesture for his upcoming college entrance exams. Fong can hardly believe it. Once the introductions are done, Jing plays the footage of the trial, showing the deity calling someone an evil god. Inside, Fong is panicking. How can a normal student like him be mistaken for something like that? Then his eyes drift to his mission name again, and frustration floods in. His system called this a small matter, yet here he is being labeled an evil god by divine beings. He keeps his expression neutral, assuring them that he'll forward the video to the mysterious Great Master and keep them informed. As the meeting wraps up, Fong notices Jing looks familiar. She's the same woman from the transformation room earlier. It all clicks, and he realizes how he got discovered so quickly. Outside, Lao tells Jing that Fong matches the description they received perfectly, smart, polite, and grounded. The higher-ups plan to recruit him if possible. When Jing asks if her master believes Fong and the mysterious Great Master are actually the same person, Lao simply shrugs it off. To him, it doesn't matter. If Fong wants to live as a student, then a student he'll remain. Old Lao's reasoning turns out to be sharper than anyone expected. He explains that giving 5 million crystals to a student isn't wasteful, it's an investment. If the student later turns out to be the mysterious Great Master, that act of generosity will pay off. And even if not, it still strengthens ties with a powerful young talent. With the world growing more dangerous and no one qualified for the god's gifts, Lao sees the Great Master as humanity's strongest hidden card. Meanwhile, Fong sits at home with a cup of coffee, staring at his system and questioning his life choices. His system has detected damage from a deity who had apparently been investigating him, and that same god effortlessly shattered his so-called absolute defense. That alone means divine beings have truly reached forbidden magic levels. Fong's priorities instantly rearrange themselves, repair the system to block divine tracking, and clear the trial mission before something kills him first. To prepare, he asks Duan for details from Lao about the trial realm. The old man explains that it's a massive tower with an unknown number of floors, each one filled with monsters far stronger than anything in normal secret realms. The current record holder, Shu from the Azure Sharp Guild, reached only the 42nd floor. Fong's unease grows. Using his full forbidden magic inside might expose him to everyone watching. Then inspiration strikes. The mission never said he had to complete the trial personally. He can send someone else. He turns to Duan, asking how far he could go in the tower. Duan estimates around the 35th floor. Fong reasons that while Shu might be stronger and close to his 5th transformation, Duan is reliable, and with some extra training, he could go even further. When Lao hears that the mysterious Great Master wants to send a representative to attempt the trial and has requested use of the guild's training facilities, he nearly bursts out laughing. The 7 guild presidents had all failed miserably at the same challenge just the day before. Even Lu Ying-jin, one of the country's most powerful fighters. Jing tries to stay optimistic, saying if they can't pass, maybe someone trained by the Great Master can. Lao becomes so excited that his head literally bursts into flames, his dark power burning away parts of his life as his apprentice looks on in worry. The toll of using that cursed strength is clearly destroying him, but he doesn't care. He wants to see how far Duan can go under the Great Master's guidance. At the training facility, a crowd gathers to witness the session. Captain Ju watches with a mix of guilt and relief, remembering how he once disrespected Fong and realizing how lucky he was not to push it further. Jing explains that the room can simulate high-level combat environments, but can only be used by those at or above the 4th transformation. As Duan's data is loaded into the system, Jing is stunned. He's filled it with detailed information about monster weaknesses, even from floors only President Liu had cleared. Fong, of course, already knows all of this because he once invaded that realm himself as the Demon King, and he's using that memory to give Duan the edge. Lao requests to observe the training, which Duan allows. But then Lao's tone turns unsettling as he asks whether the great master truly said that the evil god will destroy the world, sending chills through Jing. Later, Duan recalls asking Fong that exact question at home, unaware that he was actually speaking to the evil god himself. Fong almost slips, torn between honesty and the risk of exposure. Ultimately, he keeps quiet. Duan tells Lao that Fong gave an 8-word reply. "As long as I'm here, that won't happen." Lao bursts into laughter, calling it a simple yet confident line that perfectly fits the great master's personality. Jing, still nervous, wonders what kind of fearless person this master must be to speak so casually about defying gods, never realizing it's her own student. Fong quietly celebrates for pulling off the perfect answer that makes him sound heroic rather than suspicious. Lao clasps Duan's hand and declares that the success of the trial now depends on him. Training begins, and Duan immediately gets thrown into brutal simulated battles. Monsters slam him against walls, but he refuses to quit, forcing himself back up each time. His determination to live up to Fong's trust drives him through exhaustion. Jing watches in awe as he fights creatures well beyond a 4th transformations level, admitting she wouldn't last half as long. Lao, meanwhile, remembers how Fong completed his first transformation just months after awakening and wonders if another miracle is on the way. Maybe this mysterious mentor is about to rewrite the limits of combat entirely. That's when Fong realizes the flaw in his plan. He thought knowing monster weaknesses would be enough, but he forgot one critical fact: humans still have limits. Even with all his preparation, Fong realizes that knowing monster weak points doesn't mean much if you can't reach them or survive long enough to hit them. Watching Duan nearly collapse from exhaustion makes it clear that if his friend fails, he'll have to take the risk himself, using forbidden magic and potentially exposing everything he's worked to hide. So, he makes an excuse about school starting soon and slips away. Out in the city, Fong starts planning his next move. He needs stronger gear and new skills, something that can make up for Duan's physical limits without relying on forbidden spells. In an alleyway, he pulls out a flight scroll. It's one of the untraceable ones he bought through a private contact to avoid being tracked by the authorities. With a flick, he vanishes into the air, heading toward one of the wild, unregulated secret realms Duan once mentioned. When he arrives, the entire place looks like a battlefield, burned trees, broken ground, and scattered corpses. But instead of turning back, Fong shrugs and walks right in, curious as ever. Near the entrance, a group of cultists from an evil clan is celebrating over a fallen adventurer. Their leader, a masked man, notices a faint flash of light in the distance and assumes someone has arrived using a flight scroll. His subordinates panic, wondering if it's an enemy, but the masked chief just laughs. He explains that they've been collecting sacrifices to summon their great demon king, and that whoever just arrived is walking straight into their ritual. They're too caught up in their celebration to realize how doomed they are. One of the dying adventurers still has an active communication device, and the person on the other end hears everything: the sacrifices, the coming demon king, the invasion. The nearby city's defense team gets the alert, and their captain immediately realizes what's happening. A secret realm invasion could spill into the city, corrupting everything. He orders an evacuation, staying behind to monitor the situation even though it's certain death. Before the chaos begins, he calls his daughter under the pretense of an emergency drill. She cheerfully wishes him a happy birthday, and he breaks down in tears, knowing it might be the last time they speak. As his team retreats, they see dark energy spreading from the portal and understand the invasion has already begun. The cultists cheer louder, believing their demon king is about to descend. But inside the realm, Fong has already unleashed his forbidden magic, an extreme cold spell that freezes everything in sight. The entire area turns into a frozen wasteland. He strolls through the ice, casually smashing frozen monsters and admiring the experience boost as he levels up to 37. Among the frozen figures is the so-called Demon King himself, now an oversized ice sculpture thanks to Fong's overkill magic. Outside, the cult continues to chant praises to their returning Demon King, completely unaware that he's been turned into a popsicle. Fong, meanwhile, scrolls through his system interface, happy about his new level and new skill options, without realizing he's just prevented a major city's destruction. Then, something stirs at the portal entrance. The cultists drop to their knees, expecting their great Demon King to appear. Instead, out steps Fong, looking completely ordinary and confused. Both sides just stare at each other in silence. The cult leader, Gua, glares at Fong's basic adventure gear, convinced this newcomer must be a clueless amateur. Thinking Fong might have come to join them, he shouts to confirm, but Fong just replies bluntly that it's none of their business. Gua, offended, introduces himself as a wanted criminal with over 100 kills. Fong doesn't even flinch, simply telling them to fight or get out of his way. Enraged, the cultists prepare to attack, only for the sky to darken as a massive, sinister face appears above them. Fong decides it's the perfect time to test his new skill, Sorrow of Abuse. The forbidden spell drags enemies into an illusion realm that exposes all their weaknesses, allowing him to attack them with perfect precision. He targets Gua first and quickly spots an old shoulder injury caused by misuse of cursed equipment. Exploiting it, Fong strikes hard, and Gua screams in agony, unable to comprehend how his pain is being multiplied. Inside the illusion realm, Fong moves methodically, striking weak points again and again until the cult is wiped out. The spell is cruel, but frighteningly efficient. When the battle ends, he stands amid the frozen corpses, calm as ever, unaware of how much chaos his casual power has just erased. Not long after, the captain who stayed behind finally climbs the mountain to see what happened. The captain arrives at the aftermath of the battle, finding Gua and his entire crew completely wiped out. The sight stuns him. Gua was a Class A wanted criminal responsible for countless deaths, and 4 adventurer teams had already been sacrificed trying to bring him down without success. Now, their bodies lie scattered across the battlefield, the impossible scene making everyone question what happened. When his teammate asks about the situation inside the secret realm, the captain steps in cautiously. Everything is frozen solid. Monsters, terrain, even the air feels like it's locked in ice. There's no sign of life anywhere. His team asks about the Demon King, and the captain reports it's been destroyed. He even walks up to the massive ice coffin to confirm, but when it breaks apart, no item drops, and he gains no experience points. That means the boss was already dead before he got there. The frozen body still looks terrifying, even in death, and the captain can't help thinking how absurd this is. When his team wonders if the secret realm invasion is still ongoing, the captain just stares at the dead Demon King, unsure how to even respond. Later, Fong returns to Duan's place and calls him home from training. Duan shows up, frustrated that he's stuck at level 45 and feels like he's disappointed Fong. But Fong doesn't mind at all. The real goal was just to understand the trial's mechanics. He tells Duan they'll begin some serious training next week, and Duan immediately brightens up, asking what Fong wants for dinner before running off excitedly. Fong smiles faintly, watching his friend's enthusiasm, then sits back down at his game. Out of nowhere, he gets a message from old man Lao asking to team up, claiming he's an excellent level 6 tank. Fong at first thinks someone must have hacked Lao's account, but then an audio message confirms it's really him. Lao explains that he plays occasionally with his grandson, though the boy is busy with entrance exams. They team up for a few matches and win. Lao suggests Fong should play with his grandson sometime, since they're around the same age. Fong agrees, seeing potential in building a connection for his plans ahead. Then Lao mentions that 3 major universities are hosting a joint training camp to select top students, with 2 slots still open. Fong realizes that while forbidden spells make him powerful, fighting gods without real combat experience would be reckless. So, he accepts the offer, and Lao reserves both spots, one for Fong and one for a teammate if he chooses. Looking at his grandson's picture, Lao jokes that they might get along well and even become good friends. The next day at school, everyone's complaining about how strict Ray University's standards are and how even their current students are failing assessments. One annoyed classmate points at Fong, who's dozing off, questioning if a 3-star awakened person should even be compared to lower ranks. The teacher, Chi, interrupts to introduce a new transfer student, and the entire class goes silent as Chusiyu walks in. Every boy in the room is stunned. Fong wakes up and immediately recognizes her. She's the same girl from the secret realm, the one whose equipment he ended up with after her team was destroyed. The class starts whispering excitedly, asking if she's really ranked 4th on the supernova list and from a prestigious big city academy. When she requests to sit beside Fong, the teacher agrees without hesitation. The whole class erupts in disbelief, and the boys start fuming, cursing Fong's ridiculous luck. Meanwhile, in the principal's office, Principal Jin is losing his temper, accusing Principal Fong of stealing his top student, Chang Mushu. Fong plays innocent, pretending not to know what he's talking about. Jin rants that losing Mushu also cost his school a training camp slot, which will tank their approval ratings. Principal Fong, however, is grinning internally, realizing that Jin's school is doomed since only 4 spots exist in the province, and now 2 belong to his own school. Just then, an assistant rushes in to announce that a high-ranking official from the Adventure Management Department has arrived. Both principals almost faint. It's like the president showing up unannounced at a small-town college. The old man walks in with his grandson, Fong Ru. Everyone in the room is shocked. Fong Ru is ranked 12th nationally as a Blood Knight, and even though his dark powers are unstable, he could easily be in the top 5 if he mastered them. The old man explains that his grandson wants to transfer to Fong's school. Jin's jaw drops. Why would someone of that level choose a random school like this? Then he realizes every student on the National Supernova list automatically gets a training camp spot, meaning Fong's school just gained another slot. To make it worse for Jin, Lao mentions there are 2 spots to assign, nearly all the available ones in the entire province. Fong doesn't waste the chance to humiliate Jin, telling him to leave since important people are talking. Jin's face is priceless, a perfect mix of disbelief and humiliation. Fong directly asked if the 2 training camp slots were really meant for Ning Fong from Class 2, since the boy had only recently awakened. Lao simply replied that it was the department's decision and that Fong had no reason to question it. The principal stayed silent, realizing that the Adventure Management Department operated outside the control of the 7 great guilds and held immense influence. He also couldn't help but wonder how Fong managed to establish a connection with someone like Lao. Back in class, Fong was caught off guard when his friends from the Lion Guild suddenly transferred to his school. Shu explained with a grin that they wanted to be closer to him. She added that they had tried to bring Zhou Chun along, but since he refused, she took his place instead. Meanwhile, Wang Yu and Mu were locked in quiet tension, each unwilling to give up attention toward Fong. The berserker of the group seemed excited to meet Lao's grandson, Fong Ro, who politely greeted everyone and said he hoped they could all get along. Mu, however, was unsettled, realizing she had competition. She had prepared gifts for Fong, but was now debating the right time to give them. The class was in disbelief. Fong's circle alone looked strong enough to represent a top university team. Even if he wasn't included, the rest of them could easily be seen as the best in any high school across the country. Fong could tell things were going to get interesting, but what bothered him more was Zhou Chun's absence and why no one seemed alarmed about it. At Zhou Chun's house, his father sat with a tense expression as a guard reported that there was still no news of the missing young master. The father replied that he had hired top investigators and arranged for Zhou Chun's disappearance to be covered under the excuse of undergoing special training. The school had questioned it, but didn't push further since it was tied to a training camp spot. When the father was alone, he entered his son's room and pressed a hidden section of the wall. A concealed door opened, revealing a secret chamber lit by a dark altar. The room pulsed with sinister energy, hinting that the family was involved in something far more dangerous, or that the father already knew the truth about his son. Back at school, students were exchanging gifts. Fong Ro presented a rare skill book for summoning water elements, while Mu offered a blade enchantment manual suited for battle mages. Both were rare and valuable, clearly meant to impress Fong. However, neither gift was useful to him. When he had tried entering a secondary secret realm earlier to unlock new skill bars, the system denied his request for not having a 5-member team. Rather than let the situation turn awkward, Fong decided to respond with generosity. He took out 40 advanced experience potions and gave 20 each to them. Mu froze in disbelief, recognizing them as rare items used exclusively by the Azure Guild. Fong Ro was equally surprised since these potions were sold for enormous prices and were rarely available. Realizing Fong possessed so many of them made everyone question just how powerful his connections were. Then Wang Yu stepped forward, saying she had something for him as well. She handed Fong a freshly refined potion made by Shuai. Fong examined it carefully and was genuinely impressed by its quality and precision, acknowledging that Shuai's skill in alchemy was exceptional. Meanwhile, at Duan's house, Duan was wondering if Fong had forgotten about the promised harsh training since he hadn't brought it up in days. Early that morning, Fong arrived, explaining that the training camp allowed flexible schedules. He then handed Duan a potion designed to heal long-term internal injuries, telling him to drink it before they began. Duan drank it immediately, feeling warmth spread through his body as the pain began to fade. Fong noted that the potion was strong enough to heal even part of his own curse injuries. Without delay, Fong announced that training was about to begin. Duan, full of confidence, said he was ready for anything. Fong told him to speak up if he couldn't continue, then activated his Sorrow of Abuse ability to assess Duan's weaknesses. He found that while Duan's lungs were healing, his energy overload skill had been slowly damaging his body, reducing strength by 2%, stamina by another 2%, and overall skill efficiency by 11%. Fong explained that energy overload wasn't suitable for him and that his skill setup needed major changes. Duan was stunned by how accurately Fong read his condition. Before Duan could react, Fong declared the start of training and launched a sudden attack. Duan tried to counter, but Fong quickly changed direction and struck cleanly, forcing him to his knees. When Fong asked if he could continue, Duan insisted that he was fine and ready to keep going, unwilling to quit. Fong was thinking back to his earlier test subjects, how their suffering helped him master using this ability without completely destroying someone's mind. The pain was still unavoidable, but at least Duan wouldn't lose his sanity. Even as Duan screamed in agony, he forced himself back up, convinced his boss was probably the only person in existence who could make him stronger. There was no way he was going to waste this chance. After days of brutal training, Duan stepped onto the actual training field, now facing a demon. But this wasn't the same Duan anymore. His movements were sharp, fluid, and precise. He dodged every attack with ease, leapt onto the demon's back, spun midair while focusing energy into his dagger, then plunged it straight into the creature's spine. The demon roared in pain before collapsing, and Duan stood there grinning, asking for the next round. Jing stared at him in disbelief, saying there were no more stages left. They had already used up all the monster data Duan himself had submitted. That's when Duan's knees gave out from exhaustion, and he hit the ground laughing and crying at the same time. After all this time, his master's training had finally allowed him to clear the entire field. Old Lao was stunned. He couldn't believe what he just saw. Taking a 4th transformation warrior to this level in just half a month? That was beyond logic. It was a miracle. He muttered that the agency had to maintain strong relations with this mysterious great boss, no matter what. Then his head started heating up again, his body trembling slightly. Jing panicked, asking if he was okay, but the old man just laughed, saying that reaching this age as a transformer was already a blessing. Jing quietly thought about how Lao had sent his grandson to study in Xinyu, clearly preparing to pass on the torch. Still, she worried about the price of the dark power constantly eating away at his life. She wondered if the great boss might have a way to counter it. Lao, staring at Duan lying on the ground, said they'd talk about it later. First, they had to get Duan ready for the secret realm trial. Soon after, at the Sharp Blue Guild's headquarters, Lao and Duan arrived at a massive reception. Luing Jin, the Wayu guild leader, greeted them with all 7 guild presidents lined up behind him. Duan was speechless. Every single one of these people was at or near the 5th transformation level. Even his master couldn't easily gather a crowd like this. The divine apparition incident must have scared everyone badly, and the only person who stayed calm facing gods was Fawn. No wonder people called him legendary. Shu, watching from the side, couldn't figure out why Ing Jin was going all out to welcome a 4th transformation warrior, especially when Ing Jin himself had already broken through to the 5th. He sighed internally, realizing these old foxes were just using the secret realm meeting as a way to strengthen their own networks. As the group moved toward the portal, Shu told Duan that everyone there respected strength and hoped he'd show his skills. Duan, half distracted, just nodded and said sure, his mind already elsewhere. He quietly pulled out his phone, set it up on a tripod aimed at the battlefield, and connected it so Fong could watch remotely. Instantly, all the guild leaders crowded around, whispering about whether the mysterious great boss was really tuning in. Cut to Duan's house. Fong was lying back on the couch, calmly watching the live feed. He remarked that Duan's movements had become a lot faster. On screen, Duan launched a barrage of rapid, clean attacks that left the crowd stunned. Ing Jin muttered in disbelief that his speed had multiplied several times, while Shu asked if Duan was really only a 4th transformation warrior. Duan's performance was already outshining President Lu's earlier records. Then, as the final stage appeared, a massive demon emerged. But Duan didn't even flinch. He blitzed forward and finished it effortlessly. The system chimed, congratulating him for clearing the trial, and everyone froze. No one expected him to actually complete it. Then things got insane. Duan looked up as a blinding light descended, and the system announced he'd received the blessing of the gods as a first clear reward, a forbidden spell straight from the deities themselves. The guild leaders completely lost it, shouting that god blessings were the same as forbidden spells. Shu almost had a mental breakdown when he realized it was a first clear reward, meaning no one else could ever get again. But then came the punchline. When the system scanned Duan's body, it declared his profession level 2 low to learn the forbidden spell. Duan just stood there, confused out of his mind, while Lao looked just as dumbfounded. Meanwhile, Fong was watching from the couch, remembering fragments from the Demon King's memories. He realized the reason was simple. This world's professions hadn't yet reached their true, evolved forms. That's why the system was blocking Duan's access. To fix it, the system automatically converted the forbidden spell into a divine reward, the emblem of divine grace. It then revealed that Duan could now choose from 3 profession advancement paths, each blessed by the primordial Holy Spirit of the 12 gods. The first option appeared on screen: Spiritual Sword Master, a class that wielded swords with life energy, capable of delivering clean, decisive, and lethal strikes. After that, Duan had to choose his advancement path carefully. The second option was Supreme Combat Saint, a master of pure martial arts, relying solely on his body with devastating punches and kicks, no weapons, no tools. The third was Celestial Warrior, a class that could wield any weapon and simultaneously analyze enemy techniques mid-battle. Since Duan was a dagger user, Spiritual Swordmaster made the most sense, complementing his existing style. Upon selecting Spiritual Swordmaster, he immediately received the Emblem of Divine Grace, which granted permanent stat boosts, +4 to Strength, +4 to Endurance, and an 8% faster vital energy recovery rate. The system explained that this emblem contained the fundamental rules of the universe itself and instructed Duan not to be afraid, just to focus on absorbing it. And then things went absolutely insane. As Duan absorbed the divine power, the sky ignited with a global system message. Someone had completed the God's Trial, a trial rated at world-class difficulty, with a divine emblem drop rate between 0 and 1%. This announcement wasn't local, it appeared worldwide. People everywhere scrambled to grab their phones, recording the cosmic notification, utterly bewildered by what they were witnessing. Fong, looking out his window, saw the message instantly. Almost immediately, a system notification popped up for him, reminding him to complete the secret realm and suggesting he use its power to his advantage. Back at the trial site, the guild leaders were in full panic. Ark remarked that the announcement was global, seen by everyone, and the implications were staggering. As Duan stepped out of the portal, every guild president surged toward him. Lu Yingjin, astonished, realized that Duan's strength could no longer be measured as a mere fourth transformation. He understood that Duan's achievement could completely revolutionize the global evaluation system. Guilds everywhere, the Wyu Guild, Wu Guild, and countless others scrambled to recruit him, each wanting a piece of this newly minted legendary warrior. But Duan, smiling politely, declined every offer, saying he wasn't interested in joining any guild at the moment. He then rushed home to tell Fong the good news. He had succeeded and hadn't disappointed his master. Fong congratulated him, but shrugged it off, claiming the success was all thanks to Fong Sa's efforts. Then, sketching the emblem design, Fong asked Duan if it matched what he saw during the trial. Duan nodded, confirming it was the same shape, and asked if Fong knew about these emblems. Casually, Fong replied that he had obtained one after completing a mission and had even given it to Wang Yu like it was no big deal. Duan could hardly believe it. His master literally handed out divine items like candy, making Duan feel his own efforts were still small in comparison. But Fong's mind was racing with far bigger concerns. If the emblem was formed by divine power, and he himself possessed divine power, could he obtain emblems in common domains too? More importantly, now that they knew of the 12 gods, would they eventually have to face them all? Duan explained that the 7 major guilds had already mobilized, actively hunting for more trial secret realms after witnessing the sheer magnitude of his divine emblem success. The world was shifting, and both master and student realized the stakes had just skyrocketed. Fong immediately recognized that the upcoming guild treasure hunt would be brutal. All the major guilds getting involved meant the competition would be cutthroat, and strategy would be key. His mind raced. If the system treats trial completions as missions, could he manipulate who succeeds? But then reality hit harder. Divine emblems were valuable, yes, but forbidden magic rewards were the real threat. If enemies got their hands on those, Fong's position would be compromised, and exposing himself to the gods. That was an even bigger headache he didn't want. He was already plotting ways to make sure only his people passed the trials. Before he could get too deep in planning, Duan interrupted. He had news, but was nervous about whether he'd done the right thing. That opened the door to the story of what had gone down at Azure Sharp Guild. According to their contract, all trial rewards were supposed to go to Azure Sharp. Duan had handed over the item drops, but since he'd already absorbed the divine emblem, he couldn't give it to them. Shu was furious, but could only glare and threaten him silently in her mind. The guild leaders were floored by some of the other high-level items. Most notably, a forgetfulness potion formula, a potion that could erase specific skills and free up skill slots, caught everyone's attention. Given how difficult leveling up was and how critical skill choices were, this potion was basically a full character reset. Shu immediately recognized the potential. Monopolizing the formula could let Azure Sharp attract top talent and potentially surpass official guilds. But then Duan casually mentioned he'd seen this exact formula before from the great mysterious boss. Every guild leader's jaw dropped. First completion rewards were supposed to be unprecedented, unique, untouchable. Shu couldn't believe it. Duan clarified. Even the high-level experience potions they possessed had been produced by this mysterious boss long ago. Suddenly, everyone connected the dots. Duan's incredible progress and power might all come from items made by the boss himself. Meanwhile, old Lao was grinning widely. When Wei and Jan asked why, he basically told them to mind their own business. He was thinking back to when his grandson mentioned that Ning Fong could easily get 40 experience potions from the mysterious boss, simply because the boss didn't care about such trivial treasures. Lao silently patted himself on the back for the genius move of transferring his grandson to Fong's school. As the crowd dispersed, Lao asked Duan if the mysterious boss had other potions. The old man revealed a vulnerable truth. The dark forces inside him were slowly corrupting his body, and he wanted to live longer to spend time with his grandson. Duan promised to ask his master, and Lao's gratitude was genuine. Back home, Duan apologized for making decisions without consulting Fong, but Fong reassured him it wasn't wrong at all. In fact, Fong was intrigued by the challenge. Could the nourishing potion even help counteract Lao's dark force corruption? Without hesitation, Fong pulled out several bottles of the elixir and told Duan to deliver them to Lao immediately. At Lao's company, Jing explained that the old man was tied up in an important meeting, offering to hold onto the elixirs until he returned. Then she went to check on rough Fong, wondering if the kid even knew anyone in Shinya City yet. But under rough Fong's door, a sinister aura oozed out. Inside, rough Fong knelt on the floor, trembling and sweating as a demonic voice offered to save his grandfather's life in exchange for submission. Rough Fong, though terrified, stood his ground. I'm the grandson of the great Lao Fong. How dare you make demonic deals with humans? He shouted. The voice just laughed, mocking humans as weak and bound by meaningless rules, then tried a psychological attack, hoping rough Fong would break while watching his grandfather die. Later, at the training field, rough Fong sat alone, miserable. Fong showed up, noticing his unease, and tried to cheer him with a suggestion to play Three Kingdoms on his phone. Rough Fong apologized, explaining that his grandfather didn't allow gaming at school. Fong smiled, telling him they could play once Grandpa returned, and mentioned how impressive Lao's gaming skills were. Then came the heartbreaking backstory. Rough Fong revealed that his parents died on a mission when he was very young, leaving him devastated. He became withdrawn, antisocial, and spent his days locked in his room. Lao had been a loss for how to help, until he remembered rough Fong's old love for battle games. It was this spark of interest that gave the old man a way to reach him, and now Fong was stepping into that role as a mentor and guide. Lao Fong had gone to extreme lengths to connect with his traumatized grandson. He secretly learned to play the battle games rough Fong loved. So during Ru's darkest moments, it was his grandfather who remained by his side, gently guiding him out of his isolation. Those quiet hours of gaming and mentorship were what helped rough Fong start healing from the deep scars left by losing his parents. Meanwhile, in a high-security meeting room, Lei was getting briefed on terrifying developments. Surveillance and intelligence reports were being laid out. Pong Hai, a 4-star professional who had gone to prison 8 years ago for malicious injury, mysteriously disappeared 6 years back. Guiying, another 4-star professional, had a supervised variant vanish 5 years ago. Both had now suddenly reappeared and in brutal fashion murdered 2 elderly adventurers along with their families in Pong Hai's old house. These victims were members of the team that had originally captured Pong Hai. What made the situation even worse? The murdered adventurers were 4th transformation experts, yet they were utterly destroyed by what appeared to be 3rd transformation assassins. The footage revealed Ing dodging a sword strike with ease, then landing multiple precise dagger strikes that left no room for counterattack. Everyone in the room was pale with shock. Even Lao admitted that in a one-on-one confrontation, he might not stand a chance against Ing. How did someone leap from 3rd to beyond 5th transformation in just a few years? The progression was unnatural. Clearly, something or someone had drastically accelerated his growth, and it was not through normal training. Cut to the Chun household. Mr. Chun was pacing nervously when Ing and Pong Hai arrived. Chun immediately asked if they'd found any clues about his missing son. Pong Hai explained he had sensed extremely powerful dark forces. While low-level favored ones can use dark powers only with demon lord blessings, true favored ones like themselves are personally summoned and trained by demon lords in exclusive secret realms for extended periods. Pong Hai suspected that Chen's son had caught a demon lord's attention and was now being recruited into this forbidden dark training program. Chin's reaction was absurdly misplaced. He got excited at the prospect, thinking it would finally give his family an edge against the Wong group. Even with demons corrupting his child's soul, his mind raced about business advantages. Peng Hai inspected the dark ritual room and confirmed that everything was properly prepared. As long as the sacrifices continued, the sun's potential would keep drawing the demon lord's attention. Peng Hai handed Chen a document detailing a transportation location. They were going to meet a future disciple.